Do not kill Rong Sheng Chuifeng. Feng. Chu Yihan and Rong Sheng's cries rang out simultaneously. Chu Yihan rushed forward, failed to hurt Wu Dao, caught Chuifeng's body, pulled his arm over his shoulder for support. Sister, Chuifeng's trembling hand pointed toward Rong Sheng. Wu Dao held a box in his hand and quickly moved to her side again. Rong Sheng coolly shook her head at them. Don't come over, he can travel freely. This box, you can't hurt him, don't come. If someone must die, let it be her alone. Don't drag Chuifeng into this. If you don't come, just watch her die. Wu Dao took a syringe from his sleeve, filled with black liquid that looked terrifying. Afraid of my own drug? Rong Sheng's flawless face curved into a scornful smile. When you developed this painkiller, you should have thought of the consequences of an overdose, Wu Dao said with contempt in his eyes, facing his proud student. Rong Sheng scoffed, what goes to extremes must reverse. A highly effective painkiller can quickly relieve pain, but at double the dose, it will bring double the pain. Right now, with the number of injuries on her body, Wu Dao's injection would cause her double the pain, an agony so intense she'd wish for death, followed by bleeding out. Stop it. Wu Dao, you stop right there. Chuifeng struggled free from Chu Yihan. Even if he had been stabbed, he tried to get to Rong Sheng's side. Fat. Hong Lian, having recovered, struck him in the chest with a palm. Chuifeng was knocked to the ground. Hong Lian's eyes were slightly narrowed, letting out a light snort. Rong Sheng had pricked her with a needle, and this palm was returning the favor on Chuifeng. Rong Sheng, looking at Chuifeng with blood flowing everywhere, a tear slid from the corner of her eye. Chuifeng's mouth curled up in a triumphant smile. Sister, are you crying for me? He knew Rong Sheng wouldn't just watch him with cold eyes. Deep down, she still cared for him. The highly effective painkiller began to work in her body. Rong Sheng's complexion turned pale and purplish, as she tried hard to keep her eyes open to look at Chuifeng a few more times. She never knew she would find it so hard to let go of him. She had always only sought to escape him. This is the consequence of betraying me. Wu Dao opened the box in his hand, and intense light burst forth, blinding to the eye. When everyone could see a bit clearer, they observed the box emitting a blue glow, with a figure forming within it, as if a real person were about to emerge. Rong Sheng, in excruciating pain, bit her lip. Stop him. He's about to bring another person here. We can't let him succeed. A new modern soul, to replace hers. Or any one of them, to become complicit in his evil. You won't succeed in harming the 4 kingdoms and 9 provinces. Qin Muyan yelled as he struck at Wu Dao. But once Wu Dao closed the box, he could teleport again, making Qin Muyan's blade swing miss. Wu Dao's forbidding gaze fell on Rong Sheng. He commanded Hong Lian, kill her. He originally wanted her to be tormented to death, but she talked too much. With the last of her strength, Rong Sheng shouted, don't let him open the box. No one else should come to this world and wreak havoc. They couldn't disrupt the balance of this world, turn beauty into ruins. Seeking death. Hong Lian grasped Rong Sheng's collar. With one palm, she could pierce through her skull. Just as Chuifeng got up, Wu Dao, having teleported over, injected him with a needle. His body went numb. He fell hard to the ground, watched helplessly as Hong Lian's palm, filled with inner strength, descended towards Rong Sheng, and he screamed with all his might, no. The true face of Wu Dao crack. The sound of the whip striking flesh echoed, followed by Hong Lian's agonized scream. Su Yingxue, clad in a red outfit, descended from the sky with a heroic flare. Before Hong Lian could react, Su Yingxue lashed her fiercely with the whip, flaying her skin and drenching her in blood. Su Yingxue. Hong Lian collapsed to the ground, eyes wide with shock. How are you not dead? How is this possible? Su Yingxue was personally placed in a carriage by her and thrown into the sea. How could she still be alive? I didn't die, but you are about to, Su Yingxue declared authoritatively. She swung the red jade soft whip, wrapping it around Hong Lian, hurling her into the air. Normally Hong Lian could have landed safely, being highly skilled in martial arts, but having been shot with a needle, she lost consciousness as soon as she hit the ground. Her body crashed down heavily, a thud serving as a reminder to everyone of Su Yingxue's arrival. Chu Yihan's lips curled into a slight smile. Qin Muyan's eyes sparkled with excitement. Ingxue. He had always known that someone as intelligent as her would not succumb to misfortune easily. Outside the door, the soldiers who had been held back also fought their way in with great effort. Only Wu Dao, his hand clutching the box, was trembling. Under his black hat, a pair of impure eyes filled with bloodshot veins as if he found her presence more blinding than the sunlight. Whoosh! Wu Dao moved with a gust of angry wind, reaching Su Yingxue's side almost instantly and striking without hesitation. Su Yingxue felt a piercing pain and her body weakened, drooping downwards. She hung her head low, resembling a meteor in the night sky, a fleeting beauty that made people believe she was their savior. Su Yingxue, you don't deserve to live. Even if I didn't kill you before, you won't escape now. From the corner of the wall, the severely injured Han Yuan spoke with scorn. She despised Su Yingxue. She had stolen the man she loved, caused her to be humiliated, and even usurped her teacher's appreciation. Such a person deserved to die. Su Yingxue had no right to live in the same world as her. Wu Dao looked down at Su Yingxue, his voice gloomy and hoarse like a sand-laden autumn wind from the north. If you hadn't come, you might have lived a little longer. But she had to appear before him at this moment. He couldn't convince himself to let her go now. Especially just now, when he saw her face that looked exactly like Long Shuli's. If I hadn't come, how would I kill you? Su Yingxue, kneeling on the ground, moved in a flash, flipping off Wu Dao's hat, and forcefully tore off his cape, letting his gloves that were attached to his body fall to the ground as well. Wu Dao was instantly laid bare, like a stripped man. Ah! The moment his body was exposed to light, Wu Dao cried out in terror. My God! Is that even a human? Looks more like a ghost. So ugly. As people murmured, Su Yingxue had already placed a luminous pearl the size of a fist on the black jade dragon chair, causing the glazed tiles in the hall to reflect the sunlight, instantly lighting up the great hall. In the sunlight, Wu Dao's grotesque features became clearer to everyone's eyes. He had no hair, the skin on his scalp was covered in red patches. No, not just the scalp. His face, his hands, every visible patch of his skin was red and blotchy, crisscrossed and mottled, looking as hideous and terrifying as a demon from hell. Furthermore, his whole body was thin to the bone, like a skeletal head wrapped in skin. Because of his gauntness, his fearfully widened eyes seemed even more horrifying. Ghosts that fear the light. Su Yingxue's eyes flashed with satisfaction as she stared at the ghost-like frightened Wu Dao. You fear the light, but I want you to see that this world belongs to those who live under the sun, not to a monstrous being like you who thinks he can control everything. This world belonged to them, not to Wu Dao's Azura realm. Wu Dao covered his face and retreated backward, his voice urgent and panting. Su Yingxue, don't be so smug. Once he obtained the box, Su Yingxue would die. She must die. Behind Su Yingxue, Rong Sheng spoke up to remind her. Yingxue, take that box, it's the product of scientific research, destroy it quickly. Destroy it. Only then would Wu Dao's hope be destroyed. Then Wu Dao wouldn't be able to do anything. Su Yingxue's eyes hardened as she saw Wu Dao crawling towards the spot where the box had fallen. She immediately lashed out with her whip, sending the box flying and foiling Wu Dao's attempt to grab it. Without the box, Wu Dao became weak and powerless, collapsing on the ground, unable to even get up immediately. Chu Yihan leapt forward, capturing Wu Dao and pressing the Qingfeng sword against his neck, ready to take Wu Dao's life at any moment. Qin Muyan went out to have the palace surrounded and thoroughly eradicate Wu Dao's dark forces, clearing them out completely, including capturing Han Yuan and Hong Lian. On the other side of the black jade dragon chair, Chu Yifeng, holding his wound, ran to Rong Sheng and embraced her tightly, rubbing against her forcefully. Senior sister. Senior sister. His blood-stained Rong Sheng's snow-white clothes red. Rong Sheng, enduring intense pain, reached out gently to touch his wound. First, stop the bleeding. She could always think clearly about what should be done and what shouldn't. Now was not the time for sentimentality. If Chu Yifeng's injuries were not treated, his life would be in jeopardy. You tend to me, Chu Yifeng said, holding her hand, his gaze stubborn. I am in no position to save myself right now, only Yingxue can save you. Every word Rong Sheng uttered was like stepping on nails with bare feet, her flesh pierced by sharp pain. She felt like every corner of her body was being torn apart, as if someone was ripping her to countless fragments. She looked at Su Yingxue with pleading eyes. Su Yingxue looked towards Chu Yihan, who also said, "Save him." Su Yingxue nodded, "Okay, rest assured." She wouldn't let Chu Yifeng die. Even though she didn't like this madman. She took out a medical kit from Medicine King Valley, which had everything she needed. As she was about to apply medicine to Chu Yifeng, he suddenly pushed her away. On his pale face, there was a stubbornness filled with malice. "I only want senior sister." He needed Rong Sheng to live. She couldn't die. Chu Yifeng's blood-red eyes stared at Su Yingxue. "Save her. She must live. No one can let her die." Stubborn and imperiously tyrannical. This man's attitude made him hard to like. But Su Yingxue understood that it was for Rong Sheng. Yet for Rong Sheng, Su Yingxue checked her pulse. The medicine was working quickly. Rong Sheng's indifferent face showed no extra expression. "Saving me will take time. This pain, I can bear through it." She had already taken a hemostatic drug for herself. She wouldn't bleed out and die. But enduring the double dose of painkiller she had injected into herself would require sheer willpower. If she made it through, so be it. If she didn't endure it, then it would be her fate. Rong Sheng persuaded Chu Yifeng, "First let Yingxue give you medicine. Both your internal and external injuries are severe." Calling the husband, he was first pierced through the body by a knife, losing a lot of blood, and then took a palm strike from Hong Lian, which caused even more serious internal injuries. Now, still having the strength to hold on to her, appeared to be pure willpower keeping him alive. Going on like this, he was probably going to die quicker than she would. But Chu Yifeng's stubbornness could not be resolved by anyone. Holding on to Rong Sheng, he said, "I'll share in your pain. If you can't be healed, I won't be healed either." "Chu Yifeng, are you really a madman? The medicine that Sister Rong Sheng developed herself, even she can't cure it. But you're seriously injured. By not seeking treatment, do you want to die in front of her?" Su Yingxue was greatly surprised. She'd seen the insane, but she'd never seen anyone as insane as Chu Yifeng. Truly, his name says it all. Might as well call him Chu Yifeng, the mad Chu Yifeng. "I don't need you to keep me company." Rong Sheng's cold voice seemed somewhat hurtful. But Chu Yifeng was used to being hurt by her. He sneered, "I just want to be with you. You hate me, don't you? Wouldn't you be happy if I died?" Rong Sheng blurted out before thinking that she would be unhappy. If he died, how could she possibly be happy? But that thought flashed through her mind, and in the end, she did not say it. "As you say, I really should be happy." Rong Sheng's cold face gave Chu Yifeng a misconception. As if the woman who had just wept for him, calling him a Feng, was just a fleeting dream. The sober Rong Sheng was cold and unfeeling. Bang! Su Yingxue didn't care about that much, directly knocking Chu Yifeng out, then pressing him to the ground, ripping his clothes, scattering medicine, and stitching up the wound. She did it for Chu Yihan. She had no need to argue with the madman. Upon returning to Chu Yihan's side, Mo Chi had already appeared, holding Wu Dao captive. Su Yingxue could then comfortably tend to Chu Yihan's wounds as well. Earlier, in order to suppress Chu Yifeng, Chu Yihan couldn't hurt him and ended up being injured by him. Upon seeing the wounds on his body, Su Yingxue felt indignant. "When Chu Yifeng comes to, I will definitely make sure the injuries you, Your Highness, have suffered are inflicted on him instead. And twice over at that. Otherwise, Chu Yihan's suffering would be in vain. Her man shouldn't be hurt so casually." "What did you just call?" Chu Yihan pinched Su Yingxue's face, raising an eyebrow. Su Yingxue took a moment to respond, "Your Highness?" The pressure on her face grew, and Chu Yihan's eyes emitted a slight chill. "Think carefully before you speak." A threat indeed. If she called wrong, her face might end up wrecked. Su Yingxue's earlobes turned slightly red, and her face was tinged with embarrassment. There are so many people around here. Can she call him husband when they get back? Call. Chu Yihan was brief and to the point, his gaze drifting to Qin Muyan not far away with a sword, as if proclaiming his sovereignty. With no choice left, Su Yingxue's cheeks reddened. Pouting, she called out softly, "Hubby." Emethem. Chu Yihan's eyes twinkled with a smile. His already strikingly handsome face became even more captivating. Even a descent of the gods couldn't compare to him. Your Highness, what should be done with this man? Mo-Chi, who was usually indifferent to the frequent displays of affection, had a face like thunder today. Seeing blood at the corner of his mouth, Su Yingxue couldn't help being concerned. Were you injured by Hong Lian? Earlier, when Mo-Chi had found her and they went up the mountain together, preparing to deliver a fatal blow to Wu Dao, he had found a shortcut and took her with him. But when they had encountered Hong Lian, Mo-Chi had faced her alone to conceal her presence. Su Yingxue knew that Mo-Chi, working with Chu Yihan, was not of weak martial arts skills. But now, the two gaping wounds on his body. Hes still resisting him. Fine, Master, do you want me to kill this man for you? A strong killing intent flashed in Mo-Chi's dark eyes. Behind him, Hong Lian shouted, Mo-Chi, don't kill the pavilion master. You dare to kill him. Mo-Chi's sword-holding hand trembled, but what followed was his fury as he turned to face Hong Lian. Even if the master spares him, I will kill him right before your eyes. Hong Lian cares about this pavilion master more than he cares about me. Oh no. This pavilion master is indeed someone Hong Lian cares about. As for me, I simply don't count. Heh. I am just a joke. Su Yingxue sensed something and comforted him. Don't worry, this pavilion master will definitely die. She turned to look at Wu Dao, who, exposed to the light, showed hate that was even greater than fear. His eyes were like an abyss covered in vines, always ready to entangle someone and drag them into darkness. Do you think you can kill me? Wu Dao's sneer was cold and ghastly, as if it came from hell. His eyes seemed to have seen right through Su Yingxue. You're alive till now because of the spatial device you carry, right? How do you know? Su Yingxue's heart chilled. This was something she hadn't even told Chu Yihan. She has Medicine King Valley, and little ginseng to protect her life. But how did Wu Dao know? Could it be that he has one too? Su Yingxue's eyes widened in surprise, just in time to see the white box magically appear in Wu Dao's hand as he made a fist, allowing him to immediately break free from Mo-Chi's grip. Chu Yihan moved swiftly like an arrow leaving the bow, grabbing Wu Dao's hand and snatching the box from him, bent his legs with a kick, forcing him to kneel. His brows furrowed deeply. What witchcraft have you used? How is it possible to disappear and reappear as if by teleportation? What secret does this white box hold? It could bring Rongsheng and the souls of others here and materialize in Wu Dao's hand anytime, granting him intangible power. Wu Dao's eyes glinted with triumph. As long as I have it, you cannot kill me. This box is fused with his life. It's not something that these people can simply destroy. Su Yingxue stepped forward, took the box from Chu Yihan's hand, and tried to split it open with the Qingfeng sword, only to discover that the sword couldn't even make a scratch on the box's tough exterior. Su Yingxue, don't waste your energy. Even your mother couldn't destroy it back then. What can you do? What are you compared to her? Wu Dao's gaze was sinister, and the evil energy spreading out from him intensified his hatred. With just a thought, the box returned to his hand. He held it aloft, boasting confidently, Su Yingxue, if you have any way to kill me or destroy this, you win, but you don't have any. What her mother couldn't do in the past, she couldn't do either. Is that so? A cold light flashed in Su Yingxue's eyes as she swiftly moved forward, knocked the box out of Wu Dao's hand, and injected him with a syringe full of liquid. This slight pain was like mere tickling for Wu Dao, who had years of medical research under his belt. He didn't care in the slightest, even scoffing with disdain, you're even more foolish than your mother. She believed I would return, and you think you can kill me. The smile on Wu Dao's face didn't last as he tried to finish his sentence, turning into something grim and terrifying. What have you injected me with? Panic surfaced on his face. Although Su Yingxue wasn't initially 100% sure, the panic in Wu Dao's eyes confirmed it for her. Collapse your porphyria, even if we took blood from all three of us, couldn't possibly be cured. And, with the injection of a high concentration of alcohol, you, without a doubt, will die. Su Yingxue, how could you possibly? Wu Dao was unable to resist the weakness and pain assaulting his body, and he no longer had the strength to summon the box. The alcohol quickly paralyzed him, and caused his blood to start running chaotic. Wu Dao had never hated someone like this, not even Long Shuli. He gritted his teeth, word by word seething with hate. Su Yingxue, you dare destroy everything I have. His grand vision and ambition. His ambition to dominate the world. All these years of management and plotting, he was just a little short of success. He could kill Long Shuli, who stood in his way. But this time, Su Yingxue, Wu Dao struggled desperately. He could still summon the box, but the box was firmly controlled by Su Yingxue. She opened it, and it was originally empty inside. But the box, while in an open state, could not be summoned by Wu Dao at will. She talked about this with Little Ginseng during their chat. Little Ginseng said, just like its spiritual body couldn't separate from Su Yingxue's body, Wu Dao and the box, if both were to fall at the same time, would lose the ability to control and be controlled. Wu Dao, like a dying spider, crawled towards Su Yingxue, demanding the box. Give it to me. Give it to me. His efforts could not be in vain. He could not have crossed over to this life for nothing. He had to be the supreme ruler of the world. Chu Yihan's sword pierced through his body, nailing him firmly to the ground. Afterwards, he protectively guarded Su Yingxue. The sight before him made Wu Dao feel even more repulsed. After scheming his entire life, he had gained nothing. His hand slowly reached for his dragon throne. Wu Dao pressed a button with a sinister look in his eyes, a smile playing on his face. Su Yingxue, your mother is dead, and you won't get to live well either. In the past, Long Shuli, to oppose him, even if she was violated by a man like Su Dingheng, still lived a splendid life. She made him grind his teeth with silent hatred to this day, hating her intensely every time he thought of her. Even if he was to die, he was going to take them with him. The ground beneath Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan started to shake. Chu Yihan was the first to feel that something was amiss, hugging Su Yingxue's waist, and shouted to everyone, hurry up and leave. This place is going to collapse. You can't escape, you won't be able to escape. Wu Dao let out one last maniacal laugh. As his body fell, it pressed down on the switch, and the palace began to shake violently. Chu Yihan embraced Su Yingxue. Mo Qi carried Chu Yifeng on his back while holding Rong Sheng, and Qin Muyan grabbed the others and was about to leave. But before they could reach the entrance of the grand hall, the entire palace collapsed with a bang. Behind the palace was a sheer cliff. The palace crumbled entirely, everyone shaking uncontrollably, unable to steady themselves. Feeling the ground plummeting rapidly beneath him, Chu Yihan wrapped his arms around Su Yingxue's waist, shielding her with his body below. Don't be afraid, your highness won't let you die. Your highness, be careful. Su Yingxue saw a beam falling towards Chu Yihan's back and quickly embraced him, rolling away several times. Boom, the earth-shattering sound reverberated through the sky. When Su Hao and his men arrived, they did not see the magnificent and ever-changing palace. What he saw was just a deep pit, an area that had just experienced a sudden collapse. Sister, your highness. Su Hao, with a panicked face, shouted into the abyss, but the only thing that echoed back was his own voice. Ruthless, leaving no way out he couldn't see, nor could he hear the voices of the people below. He must save them. Sister, brother will definitely save you. Su Hao's eyes reddened, his fists clenched tightly. He mobilized all the troops, trying to find a way to get down to the edge of the cliff and excavate the ruins inside, with both the Great Wei dynasty and Beling City's armies obeying his command and coming to help. At the bottom of the cliff, amidst the ruins, Su Yingxue's head was filled with Little Ginseng's fuming voice. Su Yingxue, can you please live properly? I used a whisker to save you, and you've only been alive for a few days before you go looking for death again. You really are going to anger me to death. So infuriating. The adorable voice, like that of a small beast. A brain explosion. Su Yingxue's head ached from the noise, and she came to, supporting her head. Stop yelling, I'm not dead yet. She had only been temporarily dazed by the collapse and shaking. It's good you're not dead, Chimpage. If you die again, I won't save you. Little Ginseng's cute and irritated voice evoked the image of a child with a puffy, adorable face, looking all huffy. If it could transform into a human, Little Ginseng would certainly look like that. Perhaps with a little mouth pouted so high that a basket of herbs could hang from it. Su Yingxue was lucky. The beam that had collapsed crossed over with another, forming a protective space around her and Chu Yihan. She quickly pushed the man beside her. Your Highness. Your Highness. She could move Chu Yihan, but she couldn't wake him. Alarmed, Su Yingxue asked, Your Highness? Are you injured? Where are you hurt? She searched Chu Yihan's body for injuries and found none, but it seemed like his head had taken a severe hit. Su Yingxue's heart immediately became uneasy. Your Highness, did you hit your head? Your Highness, wake up, please. The space was too cramped, she couldn't even take his pulse, she could only stretch out a hand to move the bricks and debris from Chu Yihan's head. Your Highness, didn't you say you would protect me? Su Yingxue tried her best to move closer, but she could still only lie down, propping herself up with her arms. As she struggled to raise her hand and touched Chu Yihan's face, she encountered a warm liquid. Blood. Su Yingxue looked at her hand in shock. Chu Yihan's head was bleeding. His back was facing her now, had his face been smashed. Your Highness. Tears immediately brimmed in Su Yingxue's eyes. No, Your Highness, I don't want you to die. You can't die. Perhaps jolted by Su Yingxue's crying, Chu Yihan spoke in a hoarse voice, You still won't call me properly, I wouldn't rest in peace even in death. Call you. With her face streaked with tears, Su Yingxue's voice was soft and lingering, Hubby. I will call out, Hubby. You are my hubby, I've realized now, Hubby, please hold on, let me see if you are alright. Chu Yihan easily turned over towards her, looking at her with warm affection. Alright. Hubby, are you alright? Su Yingxue blinked, then broke into a relieved smile. Chu Yihan was alright. He could still move, and the blood she felt was just from a cut on his forehead, it wasn't a serious injury. Su Yingxue hugged Chu Yihan with excitement and joy. Hubby, this is wonderful. Thank goodness, they were both okay. Her heart had been nearly shattered with fear just moments ago. The two entwined together, with Chu Yihan's hand resting on the back of her head, sealing their reunion with a deep kiss. After the tension in the air eased slightly, he brought up, finding a way out won't be easy. Wu Dao was a cruel man who didn't leave any way out even for himself. The palace's collapse had been premeditated. Upon his own death, he planned to take everyone down with him. Loving someone is wonderful. Su Yingxue looked around. It was a scene of ruins. Even if they managed to climb out by hand, they were still at the bottom of the cliff. They would need someone from above to rescue them, otherwise, their chances of survival were very slim. Moreover, it was unknown whether the others were still alive. Su Yingxue had Chu Yihan prop up the beam on top of him, slowly moving away the debris to make room enough to sit up. Chu Yihan, using two intersecting beams, created a space stable enough to sit. Su Yingxue began calling out for the others, Sister Rong Sheng, Mochi, Scarlet Flame King, Sister Rong Sheng, Mochi, Scarlet Flame King. She called for a long time before receiving a few weak responses. Yingxue, I'm here. It's Sister Rong Sheng. She sounds close to us. Su Yingxue breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, Rong Sheng was all right. But there was a sob in Rong Sheng's voice. Chuifeng, can you save him? What happened to him? Chu Yihan's handsome brows revealed a hint of urgency. When Chuifeng teased him, he was always unresponsive and even found him annoying. But blood ties are definitely something he cares about. Rong Sheng said, he was protecting me and got badly hurt, all the medicine I had has scattered, and now I can't treat his wounds. If Rong Sheng had any medicine at all, she wouldn't be so helpless. But upon hearing Su Yingxue's voice, she remembered what Wu Dao said. Su Yingxue had a space of her own, she would certainly be able to produce some medicine. Don't be afraid, Sister Rong Sheng, I have some. Su Yingxue first reassured Chu Yihan, then asked him to figure out how to reach Rong Sheng's location, at the very least, to make a path through which they could pass the medicine to her. She entered Medicine King Valley, gathered and prepared medicines, taking out all the medicines she had previously stored in Medicine King Valley. In such a dire situation, you still have the mood to care about others. Busy in the pharmacy, Su Yingxue felt a poke and got distracted. She turned to see a little girl standing beside her with two round buns atop her head, her face as cute as if carved from pink jade. At this moment, the girl was looking up, pouting arrogantly. That haughty expression was just like what Su Yingxue imagined little Ginseng would look like transformed into human form. Su Yingxue pulled her hand away and pinched little Ginseng's chubby face, pinching until she shouted, "Don't touch, don't touch. I've just managed to transform and it's not stable yet. If you mess it up, it'll bite you to death." Little Ginseng stepped back 2 paces, puffing up her face. Seeing her like this softened Su Yingxue's heart a bit. She knelt down and hugged her, planting a kiss. "Won't touch you, just a kiss, alright?" Su Yingxue, you've become a hooligan. Is it because of your hubby? Little Ginseng could always sense that man's actions towards Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue nodded, as if she had indeed become a bit more of a hooligan since being with Chu Yihan. Occasionally, she wanted to be close to him, to kiss him, to sleep with him, and even to have a cute child like little Ginseng with him. The medicine's going bad. Seeing her blushing and lost in thought, little Ginseng looked at her with disgust. It's just a man, after all. Is he worth all this? You'll understand when you grow up, loving someone is a wonderful thing, and it's normal to daydream, Su Yingxue said as she quickly finished preparing the medicine and took the opportunity to teach little Ginseng a lesson. She left like this without thinking about a very important issue until later when she realized, she started to have a headache over little Ginseng's existence. When Su Yingxue opened her eyes again, she held many items in her hands: golden wound medicine, bandages, gauze, and injection vials. Saving Chu Feng. Ever since Sister Rongsheng gave her that book, she had started researching and, using the set of tools left by Long Shuli, she had actually developed antibiotics. Chu Yihan had already cleared the path, and now they were only separated by a wall that had collapsed between them and Rongsheng and Chu Feng. With a single palm strike, Chu Yihan created a hole big enough for Su Yingxue to pass things through. Rongsheng's medical skills were on par with her mother's, so she was naturally capable of saving Chu Feng. Su Yingxue then reassured Chu Yihan, "Your Highness, rest assured, Sister Rongsheng won't let Chu Feng die." Chu Yihan hummed in acknowledgement, then his probing gaze landed on her. "Can you tell Your Highness where these medicines come from?" He had noticed before that Su Yingxue always carried a small medicine box, but the things she could pull out of it were not something that little box could hold. Now, she had simply closed her eyes for a moment and conjured up so many items to save Chu Feng. "This," Su Yingxue paused, "actually, I didn't plan to hide it from Your Highness. I mean, hubby, I just feared you wouldn't believe it if I told you. Having seen the phenomenon of crossing from another world, what else peculiar about you could Your Highness not accept?" Chu Yihan pinched her cheek. Su Yingxue smiled, "That's true. After all, her rebirth was the strangest thing of all." She told Chu Yihan about little Ginseng and Medicine King Valley, but there was no surprise in Chu Yihan's eyes, only more relief. "Little Ginseng is protecting you very well." Su Yingxue nodded, "She's a bit haughty, but she's my life-saving token. Just like Chu Yihan." "Who's haughty, Su Yingxue? Can't you say something good about me?" Little Ginseng's voice came through, and even Chu Yihan could hear it. He raised his eyebrows slightly. "Is she speaking?" Su Yingxue looked puzzled. "Her? Your Highness, you can hear that?" Chu Yihan nodded, "Hmm. Little Ginseng, have you become more powerful? Can Your Highness hear you speak now?" Su Yingxue was particularly curious. "I could always do it, but you never wanted anyone to know. Little Ginseng didn't need to show off. Did you think little Ginseng could only stay in your head?" Little Ginseng stood with her hands on her hips, which Su Yingxue couldn't see, puffing up her round bun-like face. She clearly doted on Su Yingxue, always considering her needs, but she never gave Su Yingxue even the slightest verbal advantage. "In that case, Your Highness thanks you for taking care of his wife." Chu Yihan's voice was much softer. He hadn't seen a spirit ginseng cultivated for 1,000 years, but her childish voice was adorable, making him feel an instinctive fondness. "In that case, little Ginseng grudgingly accepts your thanks. If there's anything you need in the future, just speak up. Little Ginseng will not turn you down." Little Ginseng's voice became milkily soft and sweet, also carrying a sense of grandeur. Su Yingxue felt unhappy. Why are you so biased? She had been integrated with little ginseng for so long, and the creature had never uttered a kind word about her. Yet, why had she become so complacent towards Chu Yihan after a mere thank you from him? The difference in treatment was too great. Unfair. Because he's good-looking. If someone's good-looking, whatever they say is right. Little ginseng will absolutely not refuse any of his request. Little ginseng proclaimed proudly. Su Yingxue pouted. What more was there to say? No wonder she turned into a girl. Behind the wall, Rong Sheng was treating Chu Yifeng, administering antibiotics, applying medication, stitching up the wound, all in one go. He refuses to take medicine. Chu Yifeng slowly awoke and saw Rong Sheng beside him. His sensuous thin lips curled up slightly. Even in going to hell, I still end up with senior sister, her. Rong Sheng told him calmly and steadily, we're not dead. Ari, Chu Yifeng sighed softly, almost as if he was disappointed that they hadn't died. Unmoved, Rong Sheng continued to treat his wounds. With his injuries all taken care of, Rong Sheng held the oral medicine to Chu Yifeng's lips, succinctly commanding, take it. Chu Yifeng turned his head away, I won't. Rong Sheng's brow furrowed slightly, this is medicine for pain relief and anti-inflammation. Still not taking it. Doesn't it hurt? A touch of anxiety rose in Rong Sheng's heart. His body was covered with many wounds. The fact that he had survived was testament to his strong willpower. Now, although she had saved his life, she could fully imagine the pain from those wounds as a doctor. He was in pain. It hurts, but if you kiss me, I'll take the medicine. In Chu Yifeng's handsome brows there was the posture of a shameless rogue. Rong Sheng immediately turned cold, impossible. In the past, any intimacy between her and Chu Yifeng had been forced upon her, and she would definitely not offer herself willingly. A streak of malice flashed through Chu Yifeng's eyes. Knowing that Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue were behind the wall, he shouted, Chu Yihan, has Su Yingxue ever kissed you of her own accord? Chu Yihan's voice, cold and detached, came through, how boring. Su Yingxue heard the noise on their side. She walked up, clung to Chu Yihan's shoulder, and kissed his lips, even biting his face, making sure her voice was loud enough to be heard by Chu Yifeng. After kissing, she deliberately cooed seductively, hubby, did you like it? Chu Yihan hooked his lips, pulling her into his embrace and pinching her face, you little troublemaker. A stifled feeling built up in Chu Yifeng's chest. He pointed to the wall above him, looking at Rong Sheng. Did you hear that? Su Yingxue was deliberately provoking him. The emotionless face of Rong Sheng, cool and detached as a fairy, remained unmoved. What does it have to do with me? She began to forcefully push the medicine into Chu Yifeng's mouth. However, even with his injuries and lying down, she was no match for the strength in his arms alone. Rong Sheng tried several times unsuccessfully. Each time the medicine approached his lips, he swatted it away. She grew somewhat angry. Chu Yifeng, this is the medicine that could save your life. Don't take it, and you might as well prepare to die in pain. You are my life-saving medicine. A trace of scorn flitted through Chu Yifeng's eyes. Rong Sheng, do you even have a heart? He could endure being cut and stabbed, have his legs broken, and even die for Rong Sheng. But all he asked was for Rong Sheng to kiss him, yet she refused. Rong Sheng's face remained cold, offering no response. She held the remainder of the medicine and asked Chu Yifeng, are you going to take this medicine or not? Chu Yifeng smirked coldly and turned his back, no longer speaking. Rong Sheng understood his thoughts. If she didn't kiss him, he wouldn't take the medicine. He was ruthless to others, and even more so to himself. But she, Rong Sheng bit her lip. She stopped paying attention to Chu Yifeng and quietly turned to sit aside. She had always loathed physical contact with others. Chu Yifeng's repeated coercions made her despise any closeness with him. She would never initiate a kiss with him. There was a standoff between them for a while, until Chu Yifeng spoke lightly, Rong Sheng, you only pretended to be with me before to get my help in killing Wu Dao, didn't you? Rong Sheng's spine stiffened, her heart suddenly thrown into disarray. As she was unsure how to respond, Chu Yifeng scoffed coldly, your eyes have already betrayed you. Want me to take medicine? Kiss me. It's just that he was willing to jump into this pit. Rong Sheng's body curled up slightly, her arms wrapped around her knees, her face buried in them. At this moment, she felt like a person stripped of their clothes. The thoughts she believed were well hidden had been easily seen through by Chu Yifking. And her true feelings. A tear fell from the corner of her eye. Rong Sheng closed her eyes tightly, bit her lip, and said nothing more. They were buried underground, and although Su Yingzux had saved them and provided some food and medicine, it was never a long-term solution. Moreover, Chu Yifking refused to eat anything. On the third day, after Su Yingxue passed things to Mo Qi and Qin Muyan, she peered through the hole in the wall and saw Rong Sheng sitting on one side, while the food meant for Chu Yifeng remained untouched. She moved over and tugged at Chu Yihan's sleeve. "Hubby, won't you go and persuade him?" Chu Yifeng's temper really stank and was incredibly stubborn. He was harder to deal with than a rock in a cesspit. Rong Sheng couldn't handle him, and in his severely injured state, not eating or drinking, it was very easy for him to end up reporting to the King of Hell. Chu Yihan didn't want to interfere. He knew Chu Yifeng's nature better. He parted his lips lightly. "Only Rong Sheng can touch his heart. He won't live just for your highness." As an elder brother, Chu Yifeng did indeed cherish him. Despite his often harsh words, his actions were always incredibly caring. But he was not the reason Chu Yifeng wanted to live. Only Rong Sheng was. Chu Yihan's gaze met Rong Sheng's, causing the still waters of her heart to stir slightly. Chu Yifeng had maintained that position for a long time without moving. Rong Sheng pursed her lips and slowly moved over, touching him as if compromising. "Chu Yifking, take your medicine, eat something." Chu Yifeng didn't move. Rong Sheng closed her eyes for a moment, her voice cold but with a hint of coaxing. "Turn around, let me feed you." The thought of Chu Yifeng's demands made Rong Sheng feel sick instinctively. In her mind, all she could see were the torments Chu Yifeng had put her through in the past. The more reserved she was, the more shameful positions he would force her into, just to humiliate her. If it wasn't a matter of life or death, she would never have compromised. Having expressed herself thus, Chu Yifeng still did not move. On the other side, Su Yingxue was getting anxious. She knew Rong Sheng was shy and called out to Chu Yifeng boldly, "Hey, if you don't get up, Sister Rong Sheng won't kiss you anymore." She didn't control her volume when she shouted, and both Qin Muyan and Mo Qi heard her. Qin Muyan found it amusing, so childish. Mo Qi coolly curved his lips, smiling self-deprecatingly. A blush spread across Rong Sheng's face. She was already regretting her decision. In matters between men and women, she had never been the initiator. Yet she waited a long time, and Chu Yifking still barely moved. Never doubting there was a problem due to Chu Yifeng's stubborn nature and still sensing his breathing, she didn't worry too much. But when he remained silent for so long, Rong Sheng's heart sank, and she quickly crawled in front of Chu Yifking, forcefully turning him over. Chu Yifking lay like a soulless shell, his eyes closed. As soon as he was turned over, his hands suddenly sprawled out, limp and powerless on the ground. "Chu Yifeng." Rong Sheng panicked. She quickly felt for his pulse. Gone. "Chu Yifeng, wake up." The sudden panic made her lose the calm she had from years of medical practice. "Chu Yifeng, stop being angry with yourself, you're going to die." Blood transfusion Sister Rong Sheng, what's wrong with him? Hurry and take his pulse. Next door, Su Yingxue sensed that something bad was happening, and her heart was also suspended in fear. Chu Yifeng's fist made the hole larger, his gaze suddenly tense. "Chu Yifeng, he can't die. Yingxue, he doesn't have a pulse, I can't feel his pulse anymore. Rong Sheng's eyes brimmed with panic-stricken tears, her gaze frantic and helpless. Chu Yihan looked around, managed to lift the entire thick beam, and then passed Su Yingxue through. "Save him." His eyes, grave, fixed on Su Yingxue, carrying a heavy hope. Su Yingxue nodded, looking at him supporting the beam. "Hubby, be careful." She had to stay by Rong Sheng's side, so Chu Yihan had to keep supporting the beam the whole time. Su Yingxue acted swiftly, realizing that Chu Yifeng was only temporarily in shock. She quickly joined Rong Sheng in administering aid. But the two of them pressing on his heart and feeding him medicine still couldn't make Chu Yifeng regain consciousness. Rong Sheng noticed, He's lost too much blood, refused to take his medicine, and wouldn't eat. He's too weak, his body can't hold up, that's why He's like this. Such stubbornness, he wouldn't even spare himself when it took hold. Su Yingxue was somewhat distressed. We can't find someone to give him a blood transfusion right now, and he won't swallow any medicine. What do we do? My blood type is the same as his, I can give him a transfusion. Rong Sheng, her features cold but clear, skillfully took out a syringe. Rolling up her sleeve, she handed her slender arm to Su Yingxue. Yingxue, you carry out the procedure. Sister, how do you know your blood type is the same as his? Su Yingxue was surprised. Seeing how adept Rong Sheng was, it seemed like this wasn't the first time she had given him a blood transfusion. Rong Sheng didn't answer her, and Su Yingxue didn't feel it was appropriate to ask any more, but still reminded, Sister, can your body withstand it? It wasn't just that Rong Sheng had been poisoned by Chu Yifeng, she herself was also severely injured. Even giving a little blood to Chu Yifeng would be difficult for her. Rong Sheng nodded, I'm fine, just hurry. She feared Chu Yifeng's body wouldn't hold out. Su Yingxue quickly performed a blood transfusion for her and Chu Yifeng. Throughout the process, Rong Sheng's eyebrows were tightly furrowed. She was very worried about Chu Yifeng. With Rong Sheng's blood flowing into Chu Yifeng's body, and Su Yingxue feeding him some medicine, Chu Yifeng's breath and heartbeat returned. Su Yingxue took a deep breath, ready to remove the syringe. It's okay now, sister, He's come around, there's no need for more blood. Don't move. Rong Sheng stopped Su Yingxue's action, transfuse another unit to him, to promote blood circulation in his body. Otherwise, he will feel cold all over, his wound won't heal, and there's a risk of infection. Rong Sheng's rational calmness was admirable. But Su Yingxue was worried. Sister, you've been injured too. Giving him so much blood now, can your body withstand it? I'm fine. Rong Sheng looked delicate but was exceedingly determined. Su Yingxue could not stop her, and could only watch as Rong Sheng gave blood to Chu Yifeng until her face turned pale and she collapsed to the ground, unable to support herself. That's enough, sister. Su Yingxue removed the syringe for them. Rong Sheng's face was deathly pale, and she had no strength to even sit up. Su Yingxue fed her a blood-replenishing pill, her eyes carrying a hint of worry. Before she could speak, Rong Sheng continued to give instructions. Give me his medicine. Loving unknowingly, Su Yingxue placed a small vial into her hands, and thought, Sister, you should rest quickly, I'll feed him the medicine. Considering Chu Yifeng's current state, as long as he could swallow what was put in his mouth, it was good enough. There's no need, you all, go and rest, she said. She closed her eyes. Su Yingxue was still worried about her, but Chu Yihan said, Yingxue, come here and help your highness with the healing. Ah! How is your highness' injury? She exclaimed. As soon as Chu Yihan mentioned healing, she immediately went over to his side. Chu Yihan set down the pillar, and once again, they were separated from Rong Sheng. Rong Sheng cherished the gratitude in her heart. She struggled to sit up, moved next to Chu Yifeng, took the medicine that Su Yingxue had given her, held it in her mouth, gently opened Chu Yifeng's mouth, slowly leaned down, and pressed her lips to his. Her tongue gently and forcefully pushed the pill into Chu Yifeng's mouth. Chu Yifeng, not fully conscious, instinctively wrapped around the pill, swallowing Rong Sheng's softness along with it. Sister, her body was so fragrant and soft, it was heartbreakingly endearing. Before the fourth day arrived, Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan felt a tremor, as if the whole cliff had been pried up and was rising slowly. Su Yingxue frowned slightly. What's going on? Could it be that Wu Dao is not dead yet? Chu Yihan held Su Yingxue tightly. Don't be afraid. Su Yingxue leaned into his embrace, his warmth enveloping her, a comforting warmth sweeping over her heart, and she curled her lips into a shallow smile. With him there, she wouldn't be scared. After enduring the night, Su Yingxue miraculously found that the palace, which had collapsed into ruins, had actually been raised back up. They were rescued, and the first person she saw was Su Hao. Excited, Su Hao ran up to her. Sister, are you all right? He wanted to hug Su Yingxue, but seeing her in Chu Yihan's arms, he could only step back. Su Yingxue cheerfully said, Brother, I'm fine. Did you save us? Brother, You're amazing. Lifting an entire palace was not an easy feat. Even Chu Yihan was impressed. General Su, you have worked hard. Su Hao didn't dare to take the credit. Your Highness flatters me. It wasn't me this time, it was the Yu family's doing. The Yu family? Chu Yihan frowned slightly. After Chenji sect, the Yu family? Su Hao nodded. Exactly. 2 days ago Miss Yu Lian arrived with her people and started preparing. Today, they managed to raise the palace. He had always thought that this was as difficult as reaching the heavens. But the Yu family, with its legacy from Chenji sect, had actually succeeded. Indeed, it was a work of genius, worthy of awe. Chu Yihan looked into the distance, where the girl in the green dress stood afar. She bowed slightly toward Chu Yihan, as if greeting him. Chu Yihan nodded in response. Originally, when he destroyed Chenji sect, he had spared the Yu family alone, partly because the loss of their heritage would have been a pity and partly because the Yu family understood the situation. During the Chenji sect's confrontation with the imperial court, Yu Lian was the only one who did not oppose the court, so he spared her lineage when he decimated Chenji sect. Now, it seemed to be a repayment. In his arms, however, Su Yingxue was particularly surprised. Ziwei. Standing not too far away, she broke free from Chu Yihan and ran towards him, and Ziwei rushed forward, embracing her. Su Yingxue hadn't expected him to be so emotional. Her body was trembling slightly. She gently patted Ziwei on the shoulder. Ziwei, I'm not dead, don't worry. Saving them was Ziwei's wife. Ziwei's chest vibrated powerfully, his heartbeat pounding at a pace he had never experienced in all his years. Intense, fiery. Even his usually cold face slowly thawed. This scene filled Yu Lian with admiration. But she had to intervene. She stepped forward, hooking her arm through Ziwei's. Ziwei, let go of the 9th princess consort. She'll have trouble breathing if you continue like this. I won't let go. Ziwei was not being stubborn for the first time. He hugged Su Yingxue tight, as if she was as precious as his own heart. Ziwei, let me go. Su Yingxue felt a bit embarrassed. It wasn't proper to do this in front of so many people. She quietly poked Ziwei in the back. Ziwei still refused to let go. Yu Lian, out of options, whispered in his ear, if you keep holding the 9th princess consort like this, and the 9th prince blames her, what will she do then? Her words poured over Ziwei like icy water. His whole body tensed, and slowly, he released Su Yingxue. Then he turned around. From beginning to end, he never let Su Yingxue see his face. Su Yingxue turned to Chu Yihan and pulled a face, signaling him not to be angry. Chu Yihan huffed lightly and turned away to deal with the aftermath. Only then could Su Yingxue relax, and she noticed the girl by Ziwei's side, asking curiously, are you Ziwei's friend? Yu Lian accidentally locked eyes with Su Yingxue and was utterly captivated by her beauty. They had just come out of a wreckage, everyone marred with wounds and covered in dust. Yet even so, it did not conceal the beauty of Su Yingxue, her radiant eyes and pearly teeth, her gaze star-like, truly deserving the title of the world's foremost beauty. But Yu Lian was not a woman who felt inferior. Arm in arm with Ziwei, she spoke softly, we've gotten married, I am his wife. Wife. Su Yingxue almost bit her tongue. She had been away for a while, and Ziwei got married? Ziwei felt her astonishment and immediately spoke out, you don't like it? I don't have to get married. Yu Lian's hand was dropped, causing her to bite her lip. Yu Lian felt an inexplicable fear towards Su Yingxue. She was afraid that Su Yingxue would take Ziwei away, preventing her from being with him. Ziwei had once told her that he would only listen to Su Yingxue, only protect her his entire life. Given Ziwei's nature, just one word from Su Yingxue would make her lose him. Surprisingly, Su Yingxue punched Ziwei hard. What nonsense are you talking about? Is marriage a matter to be trifled with? Now that you've married this lady, you are her husband, you must cherish her, and be responsible for her your entire life. Ziwei felt her anger and corrected himself. All right, I will be responsible for her. Su Yingxue was then reassured. She turned her gaze gently towards Yu Lian. Miss, thank you. Thank me. There's no need, our Yu family owes the ninth prince a favor, this is but repaying that debt. Yu Lian had her own pride, she would not let others see her weakness easily. It's not because you saved me, it's because of Ziwei. Su Yingshu's eyes were full of kindness. Thank you for being good to Ziwei. I've always hoped he would be loved well, and now you've given him a home, it makes me very relieved. You must love him very much, don't you? Though she did not know how their relationship developed so quickly to the point of marriage. Yet Su Yingxue could see that Yu Lian was a kind-hearted girl, and Ziwei must have married her willingly. Nobody could force him. Why get married? Yu Lian blinked, then answered subconsciously, yes, I love him very much. Love that was too deep to extricate herself from. That's great. Su Yingxue energetically patted Ziwei on the shoulder. Ziwei, you must treat your wife well. When we get back, I will prepare a dowry for you. I, as the host, can't be too stingy. Su Yingshu's mind was filled with happiness for Ziwei. Behind her, Su Hao called out to her, and she went off first. Only when her footsteps had faded did Ziwei dare to turn around, watching her retreating figure, his heart brimming with longing. Yu Lian seldom saw emotions in his eyes. Seeing him like this, she smiled wryly. You've missed her for so long, why didn't you say anything? She had witnessed how cold-hearted he could be. The emotionless assassin, who never displayed any feelings. But when he had just seen Su Yingxue, he had embraced her eagerly, like an earthquake or an erupting volcano. His love for her was intense. Ziwei left with a downcast gaze, without uttering a word. As if Yu Lian were just air. A dim smile on her face, Yu Lian had foreseen this before she married Ziwei. Now, Yu Lian gently wiped her face, she was simply heartbroken. The ruins had been excavated, people were injured, some lightly, some seriously. Qin Muyan was taken away by Wei Ju, and Mo Qi carried off. Wu Dao and Hong Lian were dug out. Wu Dao was already dead, his head shattered, his brains dried up. Hong Lian, by rights, should be dead, but Su Yingxue found she still had breath. She didn't seem like she had been without food or medicine these past few days. Thinking of Mo Qi's miserable state, Su Yingxue suddenly couldn't bring herself to kill Hong Lian. She turned to look at Chu Yihan, just lock her up in the dungeon for life. Chu Yihan was initially unwilling to let her go, he never left loose ends. But since Su Yingxue pleaded, he relented. While Su Hao's people were digging through the ruins to rescue them, they also unearthed a box. Su Hao handed it to Su Yingxue. I noticed this thing is extraordinary, probably not an ordinary item. Su Yingxue nodded, indeed it's not ordinary. But now that Wu Dao is dead, it's better to destroy this thing. What if it lures people here again? Their world had become chaotic once more, hadn't it? Don't destroy it. Rong Sheng spoke up to stop her. Why not entrust it to me for safekeeping? Su Yingxue actually had no desire to keep it, and seeing that Rong Sheng was a modern soul, it seemed appropriate for her to have it. Perhaps she could make use of it. But just as she was about to hand it to Rong Sheng, Chu Yihan took the box away. Your Highness will keep it. His cold gaze swept over Rong Sheng, seemingly with a hidden meaning, and then he looked toward Chu Yifeng on the stretcher. Take good care of him. That sentence was meant for Rong Sheng. Rong Sheng's eyes grew colder, but she said nothing, departing with Ah Hong. Everything was over. Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue, simultaneously turning around, looked at Wu Dao's corpse, both thinking the same thing, grind his bones to dust and scatter his ashes. Wu Dao had malicious intentions, stirring up trouble in their world, scheming, responsible for the death of Su Yingshu's mother, and causing Chu Yihan and his brother to be separated for many years. Even in death, he didn't deserve a peaceful end. As Wu Dao's ashes were thrown out, the bleak sky suddenly cleared. Some ashes fell on the box in Chu Yihan's hand, which suddenly began to glow. Curious, Su Yingxue watched the box, open it and take a look. Chu Yihan, fearing something harmful might be inside the box, pulled Su Yingxue close and then opened it. The image of Long Shuli, the box emitted an incredibly brilliant light, and a figure slowly appeared. Chu Yihan thought someone from that world was about to come through and quickly tried to close the box. However, Su Yingxue grabbed his hand, her eyes blazing with intensity. "No. It's my mother. Mother!" Upon hearing this, Su Hao also came over. He saw the figure in the blue light. It was indeed his mother. His eyes warmed slightly. "Mother. Mother, could it be you're not dead? By the time you see this, Mother will have already died." The figure in the blue light began to speak. Her voice was clear and present, yet laced with a thread of sadness. "Yingxue, Hao, this hologram will only appear after Wu Dao is dead. If you can see this, it means you were strong enough to kill Wu Dao and avenge me." Overcome with emotion, Su Yingxue also shed tears. "Yes, Mother. We killed Wu Dao, we avenged you. Avenge her." Long Shuli's voice became cheerful and bright again. "Since the enemy is dead, there's no need for sorrow. My children, you mustn't shed tears so easily." Hearing these words, both Su Hao and Su Yingxue wiped away the tears at the corners of their eyes, revealing bright smiles. Long Shuli, in the blue light, though she had been gone for many years, seemed as if she was right there in front of them, speaking in perfect sync. "Yes, Mother knew it. Both of you are strong and brave, kid. Mother had Hao early and even spent a few years with him. But Yingxue, Mother wronged you. I only had time to give you a name, hardly even a glance before selfishly choosing to leave. Before I left many things for you. If you find them useful, feel free to delve into the medical texts when you have time. If you find them too profound and abstruse, then let them be. You were raised by Grandpa, so Mother isn't too worried about your upbringing. As for that brainless father of yours, just don't count on relying on him. Parental love is something Mother didn't provide the best conditions for. You'll have to make up for it later on. Mother did her best. After all, I was schemed against by Wu Dao too." Su Yingxue burst out laughing. "Mother, you really have a sense of humor." A tender smile played upon Su Hao's lips. "Mother has always been such a cheerful and optimistic woman." Cheerful and optimistic is a must. Apart from the time I was violated when I felt depressed for a little while, when I woke up, I gave your father a good thrashing and then it was all right. After all, I was fortunate later and acknowledged Grandpa as my father. He really pampered me, blindly insisting on passing the title to your good-for-nothing father. He said his other two sons were successful and didn't care about the title. I thought I couldn't let Grandpa's intentions go to waste, so besides Mother, both of you also must continue the legacy of the Marquise Manor. Did you hear me? Su Yingxue and Su Hao answered in unison. "We heard you, Mother." Long Shuli nodded. "You would definitely say you heard me. And then it's about both of your lifelong matters. With all the business up until now, Wu Dao is dead, and the major affairs are taken care of. Peace is restored to the land, and it's time for both of you to think about marrying and having children. Hao, you're stubborn and definitely won't marry a girl you don't like. Social status won't constrain you. As for Yingxue, Mother has no other expectations for you. Just don't marry an emperor or a your highness. Mother hates those palace drama plots, and you probably won't like them either." Hearing this, Su Yingxue clearly noticed that Chu Yihan's expression wasn't too good. The princess of the Great Wei dynasty. He knew Long Shuli was just an image, yet he stubbornly said, "Not every emperor and your highness would let their wives experience the plot of a palace drama." Fart. Su Yingxue couldn't help but laugh out loud. All right. Even if you were to marry an emperor or your highness, Mother wouldn't be able to oppose it. However, that empress of your great Cheng dynasty is no good. She wanted to imprison me before, to force me to give her drunken beauty. At that time, to protect you, I had no choice but to give it to her. However, before I left the palace, I told Chu Mingyuan about this affair. The empress will probably be disliked by Chu Mingyuan for a lifetime, ending up as a lonely empress in her old age. Su Yingxue's doubts were immediately cleared. So, it was her mother's doing that the emperor and empress were at odds. She admired her mother's tactics deeply. To deal with someone like the empress, you have to strike right at her heart. Who let her threaten her mother, after all? Long Shuli chatted as if talking about family affairs, leaving many words for Su Hao and Su Yingxue. Su Hao and Su Yingxue sat down and didn't finish watching the recording until night fell. At the end of the recording, Long Shuli entrusted them with a task. The body mother transmigrated into belongs to a princess from the Great Wei dynasty who went missing. Since I did not know how to face her family, I never returned to Great Wei, nor did I mention this to you. But since I've occupied this body, I owe her family an explanation. Both of you, remember to take a trip to Great Wei for me, and tell them the truth. Su Yingxue suddenly understood, so that's it. Her mother was actually a princess of Great Wei. No wonder Sheng Ping said her mother had complicated relations with Great Wei. No wonder Qin Muyan thought she looked familiar. As darkness fell and the image gradually blurred, Long Shuli's last words were, "Yingxue, Hao, mother loves you both very much." Mother, mother, Su Yingxue, like Su Hao, cried inconsolably. Though Long Shuli didn't spend much time with them, she truly loved them, her children. Su Yingxue carefully put the box away, holding it in her hands like a treasured possession. I don't know if this can be kept, if I can ever watch it again. Go ask Rong Sheng. She would know, Chu Yihan said as he rubbed the back of Su Yingxue's head, seldom seeing her cry so much like a little rabbit. Su Yingxue nodded. Su Hao composed himself and gave Chu Yihan a formal bow. Your Highness, the troops are unorganized. I will go attend to them. All right. Chu Yihan agreed. Seeing him leave, Su Yingxue was somewhat puzzled. Why isn't brother staying with us? Chu Yihan bent down and kissed her. Because you have a husband now. How could Su Hao interfere with her happiness? Su Yingxue smiled shyly, her expression sweet and a little embarrassed. Chu Yihan approached her and knelt down. Come on up. Hey, hubby, are you going to give me a piggyback? I'm not injured, and you still have wounds. These injuries are nothing to worry about. How could I let you tire yourself out? Chu Yihan said indulgently. Su Yingxue's pretty face beamed with happiness. She climbed onto Chu Yihan's back, and he carried her step by step down the mountain. With the full moon hanging high, Su Yingxue felt even the night wind in the mountains was warm, as if everything in the world was light and clear. She intended to honor her mother's final wishes, to go to Great Wei, to find her mother's relatives. For now, she had someone to confide in. After resting for a night with Chu Yihan, Su Yingxue went in search of Qin Muyan. Logically, if her mother was a princess of Great Wei, then she would be Qin Muyan's aunt, which would make Qin Muyan her blood-related cousin. Knocking out Chu Yifeng, but when they arrived at Qin Muyan's room, he was already gone. He must have left in such a hurry that he didn't even have time to say goodbye to them. All he left was a note on the table, urgent matters. I must return to my country. Let's meet again in the coming days. Su Yingxue frowned. I wonder if he even dealt with his wounds before he was so rushed to leave. The temperature around Chu Yihan dropped suddenly. Are you that concerned about him? Su Yingxue shivered with cold. I senti it. Because he's my cousin? Are you planning to go to the Great Wei capital to find your cousin? Chu Yihan's eyes were already deep with a hint of murderous intent. Su Yingxue quickly held his waist. It's to look for my mother's relatives. It wasn't just about Qin Muyan. Heh. Chu Yihan let out a cold snort. His face still looked terrible, but he didn't oppose Su Yingxue's plan to go to the Great Wei capital. Su Yingxue knew that Chu Yihan was just a bit fierce on the surface. Which of the things she wanted to do hadn't he accompanied her on? They planned to visit Chu Yifeng and then start their journey. They wanted to get their business done early so she could return to the Great Cheng dynasty sooner. But in Chu Yifeng's room, All Hong stood at the door with a helpless expression. Upon seeing Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue, he addressed them, Your Highness, Miss Su. What happened here? Didn't Sister Rong Sheng save Chu Yifeng? Why do you look like you're about to mourn for him? Teased Su Yingxue. All Hong gave a helpless, low chuckle. Miss Su really holds a grudge against my master. Although my master's life is not in danger now, he refuses to take medicine or change his dressing. His leg wound and other injuries have not improved. Even Princess Rong Sheng can't do anything with him. Princess Rong Sheng can't do anything? Chu Yihan's eyes narrowed slightly. All Hong sighed deeply. My master insists that he will only take his medicine if Princess Rongsheng kisses him. Given Princess Rongsheng's proud temperament, she naturally refuses, and so the two of them are at an impasse. Shameless. He needs a kiss to take his medicine. Why should Sister Rongsheng indulge him? Let him suffer in pain. Su Yingshu's voice drifted into the room. Bang! A sound of a medicine bowl being smashed emanated from inside. All Hong, once again helpless, had to go out and instruct someone to prepare another concoction. As he returned, Princess Rongsheng also came out, her cool brows and eyes carrying an ethereal grace, like a fairy who stood above the clouds, looking down on all beings, not partaking in the mortal world. Sister Rongsheng, Su Yingshu called out to her, and Princess Rongsheng nodded in acknowledgement. Chu Yihan's gaze fell on her, and she knew that Chu Yihan was asking her, if you can, go and talk to him. I can't cure him by force. Even if Chu Yifeng's leg was broken and he was severely injured, she was no match against him. This body, having suffered severe trauma, was too frail. The physical endurance she built up on the operating table in her previous life was no longer practical. I can't, but she can. Chu Yihan pinched Su Yingshu's soft cheek. Su Yingshu pointed at herself. Me? You're entrusting your brother to me? Why not? If he refuses to take his medicine, you can knock him out or daze him and force the medicine down, Chu Yihan said uncharitably about his brother, but he was more concerned for his wife. If he dares to resist, strike hard and don't let yourself suffer. Su Yingshu readily agreed, okay. After she finished speaking, Hong just happened to bring the new medicine. Su Yingshu gestured, come on, let's go in together. Going to Great Wei Dynasty, verifying identity. All Hong was somewhat worried, but since the order had come from the 9th prince and it was for the sake of his master's health, he could only silently mourn for Chu Yifeng in his heart. Su Yingshu was no Rongsheng. Her combat effectiveness was absolutely off the chart. Rongsheng and Chu Yihan exchanged a glance, with Rongsheng sensing that Chu Yihan had something to say to him, so he led him onto the balcony. At that moment, the sun was setting in the west, the sky adorned with splendid colors, casting a picturesque scene upon their white robes. However, Rongsheng's expression remained cold. What is it, 9th prince? He didn't believe that Chu Yihan had come to speak with him about Chu Yifeng's matters. This box, earlier it displayed an image that was left by Yingshu's mother, Princess Xu Li. Your Highness is asking on Yingshu's behalf, do you know how to operate it? Can that image appear again? Chu Yihan handed the white box to Rongsheng. Rongsheng took it and looked it over, shaking his head. That was a recording. After Wu Dao died, this box became useless. Having said that, Chu Yihan turned to leave. Wait. Rongsheng's expression suddenly turned grave. You were reluctant to give me the box that day, but now, you trust me with it. Chu Yihan admitted frankly, of course I didn't want to give it to you, for fear you would travel back and no one would be able to save Chu Yifeng, but your Highness does not have the right to decide another person's life. Therefore, he still handed the box over to Rongsheng. Whether she chose to travel back or to stay by Chu Yifeng's side was her own decision to make. A ripple stirred in Rongsheng's heart. Chu Yihan and Chu Yifeng were born of the same mother, but their characters were worlds apart. If she had obtained the box that day, she might have entertained the thought of going back, but now, Rongsheng's slender hands, holding the box, trembled lightly. When Chu Yihan returned to the room, Su Yingshu had just finished wiping her hands. She hopped over and clung to Chu Yihan's arm. Hubby, everything's been taken care of. Your brother has taken his medicine and gone to sleep. Did he take his medicine and fall asleep, or did you knock him out? He was knocked unconscious after his medication. Su Yingshu explained, I gave him an injection of anesthetic so that after his whole body became numb, I forcibly administered the medicine. After that, I knocked him out to prevent any fuss. This way, he can rest in his sleep. How peaceful. Not bad. Chu Yihan praised her and then led her away. If not for his years at Silver Moon Pavilion, Hong would have found it hard to accept just how unusual the 9th prince was as a younger brother. But he turned back to glance at the unconscious Chu Yifeng on the bed and sighed softly. both are the same. The two brothers were equally extraordinary in character. Now that Chu Yifeng had been knocked senseless and disciplined by his sister-in-law, there was nothing surprising about it. It was Rong Sheng, however. Ah Hong saw Rong Sheng holding a box as she went to the side chamber. She still couldn't leave Chu Yifeng's room, or the poison would torment her, but her steps carried a hint of urgency. She was not like her usual self, cold and noble. Yungui City bordered the Four Nations and was also near the Great Wei capital. Knowing that there was a way through the underground market to reach the Great Wei capital directly, Chu Yihan set out with Su Yingxue. The people of the underground market, not often graced with the celestial-like beauty of Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue, began to entertain some thoughts when they appeared. But the overwhelming power radiating from Chu Yihan, along with the Qingfeng sword in his hand, instantly quelled any such notions among the people of the market. Unapproachable, indeed. On the Juijing building, Mu Fei stood on the Shilu, fanning himself as he overlooked the scenery of the market. Qin Muyan's marriage Jing, dressed in a light pink gauze dress, walked to his side and spoke in a gentle whisper, "Master, everything is ready. We can embark on our journey." Mu Fei turned his body, a smile on his face which was even more delicate and beautiful than a woman's. "Did you bring my calming incense?" "Brought it. I've also made a sachet for Master. Wearing it on your body, you will feel much more at ease." Jing laughed like silver bells, walking to Mu Fei's side. She hung a purple embroidered sachet on his waist belt. She tilted her head with a smile, and the tassels on her hair made a tinkling sound, pleasant to the ears. Mu Fei, looking at her pure eyes, smiled even more. "Good girl, follow your master to Yingju." Jing did not know what place Yingju was, but since Mu Fei had said so, she smiled sweetly. "All right, Jing will always follow master." The Great Wei capital, Yingju. The Great Wei Imperial Palace was majestic, and within the harem, the Funning Palace had the deepest aura. Qin Muyan, lacking in spirits, sat to one side. Above him was the eldest princess of the Great Wei dynasty, Qi Ji, who had raised him from his youth. Qin Ji was chatting and laughing with her mother, the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager's hair was now full of white, yet she was still spirited and ruddy-cheeked, especially when looking at the young girl beside her. She held the young girl's hand, her eyes brimming with affection. "Zhao's health has always been delicate, but just seeing you, Yang, her cheeks have rounded, and her lips have reddened. Her illness indeed seems to have improved quickly." Imperial grandmother, the girl's voice was delicate, shyly hiding her beautiful and charming face in the Empress Dowager's embrace. "Ha ha ha. Zhao Hua likes the fifth brother, how could I not know? Now that fifth brother has earned military merit and slain that villain Wu Dao, resolving the crisis for the 4 kingdoms and 9 provinces, he truly deserves to be called a hero. It is only right for me to arrange a marriage for him." Qin Ruli, with his heroic spirit, raised his cup and toasted Qin Muyan, "Fifth brother, cheers to you. This time, in quelling the rebellion, you have accomplished a great feat for our Great Wei." Qin Muyan lifted his cup. "Thank you, Imperial brother. However, quelling the rebellion was not my doing alone. I dare not claim the credit. I contributed only a modest effort. It was the 9th prince of the Great Cheng dynasty and Su Yingxue who killed Wu Dao. You have already told me this, and I am aware. You do not wish to claim the credit. If the 9th prince comes to our Great Wei, naturally, I will treat him well," said Qin Ruli, a magnanimous sovereign who was never stingy with praise. "Enough. You men discussing court affairs can continue after leaving Mother's presence. Just now, Mother mentioned Yang and Zhao's marriage. Are you both pretending not to hear?" With the family sitting together, Qin Ji had no qualms about reminding them. Qin Muyan's expression clouded slightly, silent, whereas Qin Ruli was quite enthused. "Grandmother and aunt's words, of course, I heard clearly. Zhao, having been lost for many years and now found, is naturally the pearl in the palm of the Great Wei imperial family. How could I let her be wronged? As long as Mu Yang agrees, I will immediately arrange their marriage." The Empress Dowager was pleased and patted the young girl's back. "Did you hear that, Zhao? Your imperial brother is going to arrange a marriage for you. Aren't you going to rise and express your gratitude? How much longer are you going to be shy? Imperial Grandmother Shen Yu's delicate and frail voice truly evoked pity. She lifted her head, her face, bearing a resemblance to Su Yingxue and with traces of Long Shuli, made the Empress Dowager even more distressed. Seeing her shyness, the Empress Dowager urged Qin Muyan. He is unwilling to marry his cousin Mu Yang. You are a son of the Great Wei dynasty and also Zhao's cousin. Why don't you propose to her already? Your military campaign, which took you away, has left Zhao with such deep concern. Imperial Grandmother, Zhao doesn't dare to disturb cousin. Cousin's departure for war is a matter of great national importance. How could Zhao's trivial worries possibly justify interference? Zhao is fine. Shen Yu stole a glance at Qin Muyan, then immediately shrank back into the Imperial Grandmother's arms, blushing with shyness. Qin Muyan, this man made her fall in love at first sight, trapping her deeply in his allure. Just the thought of marrying him, of becoming his princess, made Shen Yu feel that all the hardships and sufferings of her earlier life were worthwhile. But her quietly sent loving glances went unnoticed when they reached Qin Muyan. The handsome features of Qin Muyan, marked by an aura of valor, were now cold and indifferent, replying to Imperial Grandmother, "Your grandson has been injured in the recent military expedition and has not fully recovered. It is not appropriate to discuss marriage now. Let us wait until your grandson's wounds have healed before we continue this discussion." With those words, a heavy atmosphere fell over the great hall. Qin Ruli's gaze darkened, and the Imperial Grandmother became angry. What? Have you not been injured less in wars before? Do you always need to be so fussy every time you return? The Imperial Grandmother sees that you are very well. You just don't want to marry Zhao, is that it? Qin Muyan almost blurted out yes, but Qin Ji promptly knelt before the Imperial Grandmother. "Empress Dowager, please calm your anger. Mu Yang did not intend to be disrespectful. He is willing to marry Zhao. It's just that he cherishes Zhao too much to bear her worries about his health. Regarding this marriage decree, if it really cannot wait, and if the Emperor consents, we can draft the edict now. As his brother, I will express gratitude to the Emperor and the Empress Dowager on behalf of Mu Yang." "Mother." Qin Muyan approached her with furrowed brows. "Your son does not wish to marry her, does not wish to wed at all. He liked Su Yingxue. The one he wanted to marry was Su Yingxue alone. This so-called cousin meant nothing to him at all." "Nonsense." Qin Ruli, who had previously shown him some protection, now lost his temper too. "In the presence of the Imperial Grandmother, do you think you can defy her orders? Apologize to cousin Zhao Hua, and say that once you have recovered, you will marry her immediately." Imperial brother, Qin Muyan clenched his fists in anger. Although there was over a decade's age difference between them, Qin Ruli had always been affectionate towards him, never forcing him into doing anything against his will. But now, Qin Ruli knew of his reluctance, but he revered their grandmother even more. Under pressure from Qin Ruli, Qin Muyan had no choice but to kneel and say reluctantly, "Your grandson has been impolite. Regarding the marriage with cousin Zhao Hua, once healed from my injuries, I will reach a decision." The Imperial Grandmother clutched Zhao Hua protectively. "My granddaughter is like a pearl cast aside. She is worthy of even the gods in heaven. If you don't want to cherish her through marriage, I am not even willing to give her to you. All of you, get out. Imperial Grandmother, please don't be upset, take care not to harm your health." From within the arms of the Imperial Grandmother, Shen Yu's face streaked with tears, her eyes full of resentment. Why wouldn't Qin Muyan agree to marry her? Even now, as Princess Zhao Hua of the Great Wei dynasty, cherished by the Imperial Grandmother, he still didn't like her. Who did he like, then? The family banquet ended unhappily. Shen Yu stayed beside the Imperial Grandmother, dabbing her tears, with the Imperial Grandmother feeling both distressed and furious. Stubbornly, she insisted on finalizing the marriage between her and Qin Muyan, yet Qin Muyan stubbornly refused to acquiesce. The old lady passed out several times from anger. The court physician was called, and the commotion lasted until midnight before it was finally quelled. When Qin Ji returned to the prince's mansion, he looked exhausted. Qin Muyan also went sleepless through the night. Qin Muyan's marriage. Jing, dressed in a light pink gauze dress, walked to his side and spoke in a gentle whisper, "Master, everything is ready. We can embark on our journey." Mu Fei turned his body, a smile on his face which was even more delicate and beautiful than a woman's. "Did you bring my calming incense?" "Brought it. I've also made a sachet for Master. Wearing it on your body, you will feel much more at ease." Jing laughed like silver bells, walking to Mu Fei's side. She hung a purple embroidered sachet on his waist belt. She tilted her head with a smile, and the tassels on her hair made a tinkling sound, pleasant to the ears. Mu Fei, looking at her pure eyes, smiled even more. "Good girl, follow your master to Ingju." Jing did not know what place Ingju was, but since Mu Fei had said so, she smiled sweetly. "All right, Jing will always follow master." The Great Wei capital, Ingju. The Great Wei Imperial Palace was majestic, and within the harem, the Funning Palace had the deepest aura. Qin Muyan, lacking in spirits, sat to one side. Above him was the eldest princess of the Great Wei dynasty, Qi Ji, who had raised him from his youth. Qin Ji was chatting and laughing with her mother, the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager's hair was now full of white, yet she was still spirited and ruddy-cheeked, especially when looking at the young girl beside her. She held the young girl's hand, her eyes brimming with affection. "Jiao's health has always been delicate, but just seeing you, Yang, her cheeks have rounded, and her lips have reddened. Her illness indeed seems to have improved quickly." Imperial grandmother, the girl's voice was delicate, shyly hiding her beautiful and charming face in the Empress Dowager's embrace. "Ha ha ha. Jiao Hua likes the fifth brother, how could I not know? Now that fifth brother has earned military merit and slain that villain Wu Dao, resolving the crisis for the 4 kingdoms and 9 provinces, he truly deserves to be called a hero. It is only right for me to arrange a marriage for him." Qin Ruli, with his heroic spirit, raised his cup and toasted Qin Muyan, "Fifth brother, cheers to you. This time, in quelling the rebellion, you have accomplished a great feat for our Great Wei." Qin Muyan lifted his cup. "Thank you, Imperial brother. However, quelling the rebellion was not my doing alone. I dare not claim the credit. I contributed only a modest effort. It was the 9th prince of the Great Cheng dynasty and Su Yingxue who killed Wu Dao. You have already told me this, and I am aware. You do not wish to claim the credit. If the 9th prince comes to our Great Wei, naturally, I will treat him well," said Qin Ruli, a magnanimous sovereign who was never stingy with praise. "Enough. You men discussing court affairs can continue after leaving Mother's presence. Just now, Mother mentioned Yang and Jiao's marriage. Are you both pretending not to hear?" With the family sitting together, Qin Ji had no qualms about reminding them. Qin Muyan's expression clouded slightly, silent, whereas Qin Ruli was quite enthused. "Grandmother and aunt's words, of course, I heard clearly. Jiao, having been lost for many years and now found, is naturally the pearl in the palm of the Great Wei imperial family. How could I let her be wronged? As long as Mu Yang agrees, I will immediately arrange their marriage." The Empress Dowager was pleased and patted the young girl's back. "Did you hear that, Jiao? Your imperial brother is going to arrange a marriage for you. Aren't you going to rise and express your gratitude? How much longer are you going to be shy?" Imperial grandmother Shen Yu's delicate and frail voice truly evoked pity. She lifted her head, her face, bearing a resemblance to Su Yingxue and with traces of long shuli, made the Empress Dowager even more distressed. Seeing her shyness, the Empress Dowager urged Qin Muyan. He is unwilling to marry his cousin Mu Yang. You are a son of the Great Wei dynasty and also Jiao's cousin. Why don't you propose to her already? Your military campaign, which took you away, has left Jiao with such deep concern. Imperial grandmother, Jiao doesn't dare to disturb cousin. Cousin's departure for war is a matter of great national importance. How could Jiao's trivial worries possibly justify interference? Jiao is fine. Shun Yu stole a glance at Qin Muyan, then immediately shrank back into the imperial grandmother's arms, blushing with shyness. Qin Muyan, this man made her fall in love at first sight, trapping her deeply in his allure. Just the thought of marrying him, of becoming his princess, made Shun Yu feel that all the hardships and sufferings of her earlier life were worthwhile. But her quietly sent loving glances went unnoticed when they reached Qin Muyan. The handsome features of Qin Muyan, marked by an aura of valor, were now cold and indifferent, replying to Imperial Grandmother, "Your grandson has been injured in the recent military expedition and has not fully recovered. It is not appropriate to discuss marriage now. Let us wait until your grandson's wounds have healed before we continue this discussion." With those words, a heavy atmosphere fell over the great hall. Qin Ruli's gaze darkened, and the Imperial Grandmother became angry. "What? Have you not been injured less in wars before? Do you always need to be so fussy every time you return? The Imperial Grandmother sees that you are very well. You just don't want to marry Jiaoer, is that it?" Qin Muyan almost blurted out yes, but Qin Ji promptly knelt before the Imperial Grandmother. "Empress Dowager, please calm your anger. Mu Yang did not intend to be disrespectful. He is willing to marry Jiaoer. It's just that he cherishes Jiaoer too much to bear her worries about his health. Regarding this marriage decree, if it really cannot wait, and if the Emperor consents, we can draft the edict now. As his brother, I will express gratitude to the Emperor and the Empress Dowager on behalf of Mu Yang." "Mother." Qin Muyan approached her with furrowed brows. "Your son does not wish to marry her, does not wish to wed at all. He liked Su Yingxue. The one he wanted to marry was Su Yingxue alone. This so-called cousin meant nothing to him at all." "Nonsense." Qin Ruli, who had previously shown him some protection, now lost his temper too. "In the presence of the Imperial Grandmother, do you think you can defy her orders? Apologize to cousin Zhao Hua, and say that once you have recovered, you will marry her immediately." "Imperial brother." Qin Muyan clenched his fists in anger. Although there was over a decade's age difference between them, Qin Ruli had always been affectionate towards him, never forcing him into doing anything against his will. But now, Qin Ruli knew of his reluctance, but he revered their grandmother even more. Under pressure from Qin Ruli, Qin Muyan had no choice but to kneel and say reluctantly, "Your grandson has been impolite. Regarding the marriage with cousin Zhao Hua, once healed from my injuries, I will reach a decision." The Imperial Grandmother clutched Zhao Hua protectively. "My granddaughter is like a pearl cast aside. She is worthy of even the gods in heaven. If you don't want to cherish her through marriage, I am not even willing to give her to you. All of you, get out. Imperial Grandmother, please don't be upset, take care not to harm your health." From within the arms of the Imperial Grandmother, Shun Yu's face streaked with tears, her eyes full of resentment. Why wouldn't Qin Muyan agree to marry her? Even now, as Princess Zhao Hua of the Great Wei dynasty, cherished by the Imperial Grandmother, he still didn't like her. Who did he like, then? The family banquet ended unhappily. Shun Yu stayed beside the Imperial Grandmother, dabbing her tears, with the Imperial Grandmother feeling both distressed and furious. Stubbornly, she insisted on finalizing the marriage between her and Qin Muyan, yet Qin Muyan stubbornly refused to acquiesce. The old lady passed out several times from anger. The court physician was called, and the commotion lasted until midnight before it was finally quelled. When Qin Ji returned to the prince's mansion, he looked exhausted. Qin Muyan also went sleepless through the night. Investigating Zhao Hua's identity, Chu Yihan snorted lightly. "With such a clear situation, there's no need for me to take action. Today, when Qin Ruli sees you, his heart will inevitably harbor suspicions. As long as you say little, an emperor filled with doubts will certainly act." Su Yingxue smiled teasingly. "Worthy of being the mastermind, Your Highness, we just sit tight and do nothing, and let that imposter princess come to us. Efficient, effortless, and trouble-free." Indeed, her husband was truly wise. Suddenly, Su Yingxue remembered something. "Hubby, yesterday when you left the ghost market, you only spoke with Sister Rongsheng and didn't bid farewell to Chu Feng. What did you two talk about? Want to know? Chu Yihan raised an eyebrow. Su Yingxue nodded vigorously, very earnestly. Yes. You never talk much with other women, so I want to know what classic words you said this time. Chu Yihan picked up Su Yingxue, deliberately drawing out his voice, each word lingering. I told her. Attracted by his tone, Su Yingxue concentrated. What did you say? What did you tell her? She was so intent that she didn't notice the darkness closing in around her until she was laid down on the bed by Chu Yihan. Under the bed canopy, Su Yingxue's voice came in surprise. You haven't told me yet. What did you two talk about? The room was filled with the entwined silhouettes of the couple, and the ambience was replete with a suggestive air. The night was gentle and lingering. The next day, after the morning court session, Qin Muyan went to the imperial study. Several ministers, seeing he was to discuss matters with Qin Ruli, bowed and withdrew. Qin Muyan asked eagerly, Imperial brother, I heard Su Yingxue has arrived. Where have you placed her? Why didn't you inform me yesterday? Qin Ruli had just finished a memorial and hadn't looked up yet. I have placed them in the palace. When you went to the great Cheng dynasty, Chu Yihan treated you with great hospitality. Naturally, I couldn't be remiss in my treatment of them. After Qin Ruli replied, he felt something was amiss. Su Yingxue? That's the 9th princess consort's given name. It's not appropriate for you to call her that way. Be more proper in front of others. These words were a brother's reminder to his sibling, not a command from an emperor to his subject. Qin Muyan's eyes turned slightly cold. I have always called her that way. It's a habit. He couldn't bring himself to call Su Yingxue the 9th princess consort. That was the woman he loved. It's good that you're here today. Once I'm finished here, you'll accompany me to Funning Palace. I have some doubts about Zhao Hua's origins. Qin Ruli's dark brows were furrowed. Qin Muyan waited on the side until Qin Ruli was done, then they together paid a visit to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager had been made ill by Qin Muyan's refusal to marry just a few days earlier and now greeted Qin Muyan with a cold face. If you despise my Zhao Hua, why come today? Better yet, despise me, the imperial grandmother, as well and sever our ties from now on. The Empress Dowager was a person who had weathered great storms and loved her little granddaughter dearly, so her tone was particularly stern. Imperial grandmother, if you are displeased, punish me as you will, even if it means taking my life. But I will never sever our relationship. Qin Muyan knelt down firmly, his tone just as resolute. You, the Empress Dowager clenched her teeth. Seeing that the grandmother and grandson were about to lose their temper with each other again, Qin Ruli quickly changed the subject. Empress Dowager, I came today to inquire about my cousin Zhao Hua. Her foster parents are still in the palace. May I meet them? And the trusted aide who found Zhao Hua for you, I would like to meet them as well. Half an hour and another half an hour. The Empress Dowager was a shrewd person. Her whitening brows furrowed slightly. Why does the Emperor suddenly want to see these people? I'll take good care of Zhao Hua's foster parents myself. Has something happened? Nothing of the sort. It's just that I intend to arrange a marriage and should at least inform Zhao Hua's foster parents. Moreover, the court astronomers need to calculate the wedding date, and I will have to question them closely, which will take some effort, he responded. Although Qin Ruli was bold and unrestrained, he was still a man with a keen attention to detail and did not arouse the Empress Dowager's suspicion. Furthermore, Qin Muyan unexpectedly came to his aid. Imperial grandmother, as cousin Zhao Hua has a distinguished status and is to marry your highness grandson, naturally everything must be well prepared. Please leave this matter to Imperial brother, who has also brought the court astronomers. Is that so? The Empress Dowager's eyes narrowed slightly. She would have let it pass if only Qin Ruli had said it, but now that the stubborn Qin Muyan had spoken, she was convinced. She gestured to the servant by her side to call for the people. Qin Ruli brought them back to the imperial study and sat with Qin Muyan in the upper seats. Shun Yu's parents, originally humble fishmongers, had thought themselves lucky for having such a beautiful daughter as Shun Yu, never imagining she would become a princess of the great Wei dynasty. Although Shun Yu had instructed them that no matter who questioned them and under what circumstances, they must insist she was found by them and not their biological child. In the absence of Shun Yu, when they were seen alone by Qin Ruli and Qin Muyan, they were still trembling with fear. Shun Yu's parents, dressed in luxurious silk, knelt before Qin Ruli. "We pay our respects to the emperor, and to the Scarlet Flame King." "Rise, there's no need for such formalities," Qin Ruli said courteously to them. But Shun Yu's parents were still trembling, especially when Qin Ruli started to inquire about Shun Yu's origins and some detailed information. At high noon, Chu Yihan received a report from an agent of the Great Wei dynasty. "Your Highness, Zhao Hua's foster parents have given themselves away, including the Empress Dowager's confidant, Lu Tai. All are now gathered at Funning Palace." Chu Yihan nodded indifferently, understood. He turned and went back to the inner chamber, lifted a corner of the bed curtains, and the sunlight shone upon the person in bed. Her flawless skin was marked with red spots, like blooming red plum blossoms, irresistibly tempting. Chu Yihan lifted the corner of his mouth, bent down to kiss her. "Get up, it's time to go to the palace and meet your grandmother and relatives." Su Yingxue let out a soft moan, shooting Chu Yihan a resentful glance. Was it her fault for staying in bed? Did she not wish to get up? It was all Chu Yihan's fault for being too intense. He had tricked her last night, and what he called half an hour ended up being half an hour followed by another half hour. She had cried until her voice was hoarse, yet he was still full of vigor. Now she felt as if her whole body had been crushed, unable to straighten her back. "It's all your fault." Su Yingxue bit him resentfully, biting down hard on his lip, not stopping until it was broken. A trace of blood oozed from the corner of Chu Yihan's mouth, his otherworldly handsome face now carrying an added allure. With his collar slightly open, the blood trailed down his neck to his collarbone. The seductive image was nearly enough to cause a nosebleed. "Ah, this I senti fair, Chu Yihan, you're cheating." Su Yingxue covered her head with the bedsheet, crying out in frustration. How could he be so incredibly alluring? "Cheating. Cheating. Your Highness doesn't mind continuing to cheat with you, but if you don't get up now, you'll miss a great drama, and your chance to recognize your kin. That would mean failing the task entrusted by your Highness mother-in-law," said Chu Yihan, his voice tinged with a hint of regret. Mu Fei testifies. Su Yingxue immediately threw off the blanket, pulling it over Chu Yihan's head. "I certainly won't miss it." Her little feet left a series of thumping sounds on the floor, and by the time Chu Yihan cast aside the blanket, she had already changed her clothes with incredible speed. She stuck out her tongue at Chu Yihan with a triumphant look. "Even you can be slow sometimes." Was she someone who would quietly endure repeated bullying? Absolutely not. A devilish streak flashed through Chu Yihan's eyes. Once today's affairs were dealt with, he would naturally let her know if he was truly slow or not. Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue entered the palace, heading in the direction of Funning Palace. According to Chu Yihan's plan, under Qin Ruli's suspicion and investigation, the identity of Princess Zhao Hua should have been clarified. But someone had entered Funning Palace before them and turned the situation around. In front of Funning Hall, Mu Fei paid his respects to the Empress Dowager and others. The Empress Dowager narrowed her eyes slightly. "Are you the master of Shi Lu in the ghost market, Mu Fei?" On Mu Fei's effeminate face, a seductive smile surfaced, replying to the Empress Dowager, "This humble one is indeed Mu Fei. Previously, the news of Princess Zhao Hua was traded by me to Lord Lu Tai and sold to him." By his side, Lu Tai hurriedly admitted, "Empress Dowager, this humble servant has been searching for the princess bloodline for many years and dared not neglect it. This time, it was also verified that the princess indeed ended up in the Great Cheng dynasty, giving birth to Princess Zhao Hua, who was then picked up and raised by the Shen couple. However, that Shen couple just slipped up, saying that Zhao Hua is their own biological daughter. How do you explain that?" Qin Ruli asked sharply. Lu Tai, feeling the pressure, trembled. He looked towards Mu Fei for help, as it was from Mu Fei that he had bought this information. Mu Fei had assured him with conviction that the person they found was definitely the real princess bloodline, and he had believed it to be true, never expecting such a situation to arise. Mu Fei, however, remained calm, replying to the emperor, "This Shen couple are of humble origins. To have the fortune to see your majesty's face is the blessing of several lifetimes. Naturally, they would be frightened. Look, both of them are still shivering." Shen father and Shen mother lay prostrate on the ground, not daring to lift their heads. Seeing all eyes turn towards them, they immediately started to cry and beg for mercy. "Emperor, spare our lives. Please, spare us." In front of them knelt Shen Yu, wiping away her tears. In her heart, she had already cursed her biological parents 800 times. These fools. Her wealth and honor were about to be ruined by their hand. They deserved to die. I know I come from a humble background and am unworthy to be a princess. If the imperial grandmother and imperial brother doubt my identity, there is no need to trouble yourselves. Please allow me to resign, Shen Yu said, covering her chest with a fragile appearance, looking pitiable to anyone who saw her. The Empress Dowager, deeply affectionate for her granddaughter, was already distressed beyond measure, but on the matter of blood ties, she was resolute. "Don't cry just yet, the situation is not clear. If you truly are Zheng Er's bloodline, the Empress Dowager will certainly grant you a lifetime of glory and make you the most honored princess of the Great Wei dynasty. But if you are not, it would mean deliberate deception. The imperial family of the Great Wei dynasty's bloodline must not be sullied." Shen Yu trembled all over, disbelieving. When the Empress Dowager had doted on her, regaining her had been like retrieving a precious jewel, cherished so much that even the slightest wind was not allowed to touch her. But now, Emperor, you previously mentioned you suspected someone else to be Zheng Er's bloodline. Who is that person? Grandma, be careful, calling her to appear will allow us to confirm her identity, so we can tell who my true granddaughter is, the Empress Dowager stated with utmost seriousness. Qin Ruli had just received a message from his aide and immediately said, "Imperial grandmother, she has arrived and is currently outside the hall. Summon her at once." The Empress Dowager was very urgent. Qin Muyan's gaze also hurriedly shifted toward the entrance of the great hall. Chu Yihan entered with Su Yingxue, their hands entwined, silhouetted against the backlight, making everything else around them mere backdrop. This was an exceedingly beautiful scene. The man, clad in white robes, moved with an ethereal grace, his aloof abstinence akin to both an immortal and a demon, yet his eyes were filled with doting affection as he looked at the woman beside him. The woman, dressed in a pink silk gown, radiated stunning beauty intertwined with playful charm, especially with her smiling visage. "Zheng Er, my Zheng Er." The Empress Dowager's eyes widened, and she rose from her couch, running towards Su Yingxue heedlessly, almost tripping in her haste. "Imperial grandmother! Imperial grandmother!" Qin Muyan and his brother hurriedly followed her. "Grandmother, please be careful." Su Yingxue stretched out a hand to support the Empress Dowager, instinctively calling out grandmother. Perhaps it was because the old lady's kind and benevolent eyes made her feel a sense of closeness. "Grandmother! Grandmother!" the Empress Dowager said with tears brimming in her eyes, "It's true, there's no mistake. You look exactly like my Zheng Er, exactly the same. You must be Zheng Er's daughter, my granddaughter." Qin Muyan was particularly delighted. "Yingxue, you really are your highness cousin." "Indeed, my suspicions were not unfounded." Qin Ruli was also very happy. At the entrance of the hall, it was a harmonious scene of family recognition. Inside the hall, however, there was a chilling silence. Shen Yu's heart seemed to shatter, clutching her chest forcefully, her lips turned pale from biting. How could this happen? Why her? Su Yingxue. How could it be her? Why not her? Didn't you once notice your resemblance to her and even harbored thoughts of climbing up the social ladder through her? Mu Fei's cold laugh was heavy with mockery. "How do you know?" Shen Yu's face was ghostly pale. The man before her looked like a woman, every aspect of his behavior was odd. "You needn't worry about how I know. If you want to maintain your title as princess and secure your future of glory and wealth, then listen to me, do as I say, or I guarantee, in just a while, you will meet your end, he whispered menacingly in her ear. He stepped closer to Shunyu, his voice chilling as he smiled. How well did the imperial family of the Great Wei dynasty treat you before? Once they find out you're a fake, that you've deceived them, they will execute you most brutally, including your parents and family members, as well as those several brothers of yours who are still in the Great Cheng dynasty. They will all be executed by Ling Kai. Don't. Shunyu's garments were already soaked with cold sweat from her back. Whether they live or die doesn't matter to me. I don't want to die. I still want to enjoy this life of wealth and power. I still want to marry Brother Muyan. Qin Muyan was the man who had captivated her at first sight. How could she concede him to Su Yingxue? Su Yingxue was already the favored daughter of heaven, the 9th princess consort, so why did she have to come and steal what was hers? Why did she have to take her identity and status? She was detestable. Remember your wish, and when the time comes, act accordingly. Mu Fei took the opportunity to slip half of a jade pendant into Shunyu's hand and then returned inconspicuously to his original kneeling position. When the Empress Dowager ran, everyone in the hall followed suit. Aside from the Shun family parents and Shunyu, no one noticed his actions just now. Mu Fei continued to kneel upright. Mu Fei's trick. Mu Fei maintained his unhurried composure as he stood up and sighed softly. The imperial family of the Great Wei dynasty, misrecognizing their own flesh and blood, now even attempting to wrongly slay their own kin. If this were to spread, who knows how the people of the world would ridicule us. His light chuckle echoed throughout the hall, laden with sarcasm. Su Yingxu's eyes narrowed slightly as she rose to her feet. Are you implying that I am an impostor? Indeed, Your Highness the 9th princess consort knows the truth in her heart. Now that you have a prestigious status, why bother coming to Great Wei to stir up trouble? The true bloodline of the eldest princess is to be pitied, Mu Fei said, his eyes full of pity as they rested on Shunyu. Shunyu immediately put on a fragile appearance and began to cry behind her hands. Mu Fei, what conspiracy are you hiding? From the moment Su Yingxue first saw Mu Fei, she felt that he was bizarre beyond belief. But his bewitching and seductive eyes were impenetrable, their meaning elusive. I am but a commoner, what schemes could I possibly harbor? I have only been paid in silver to fulfill a deal from start to finish. Your Highness the 9th princess consort, do you claim your identity as the daughter of the eldest princess based solely on your face? Mu Fei's lips curved into a mocking smile. Chu Yihan's expression grew icy, and his presence became imposing. You are courting death? How dare he question his wife? Your Highness need not rage, this matter has not yet involved you. Your own objectives are still unknown, said Mu Fei, his statement and smile at the corners of his mouth putting Qin Ruli on guard. Although Chu Yihan was his brother-in-law, and surely a good man, he was also the 9th prince of the Great Cheng dynasty, a powerful man with influence over the court and country, his ambition unfathomable. If he harbored any designs on Great Wei, imperial brother, do not believe the ravings of this lunatic. I will kill him right now. Qin Muyan drew his flaming blade, ready to strike Mu Fei. Wait. Let him continue. I want to see what nonsensical case this man can make. Yingxue looks exactly like my Zheng. In this whole wide world, how could such a resemblance exist if not for a mother-daughter relationship? The Empress Dowager gripped Su Yingxu's hand tightly, her heart set on exposing Mu Fei's lies. But Mu Fei laughed and took something out of his bosom. Faces can be coincidental, but the heirloom of the eldest princess, surely there cannot be another coincidence like this in the whole world, can there? An heirloom? Su Yingxue raised her eyebrows slightly, watching as Mu Fei produced the jade pendant. It was a half-piece, gleaming with a phosphorescent light. A blue phosphorescent light. She had never seen it before. This jade pendant, the Empress Dowager's heart skipped a beat. Bring it here, let me have a look at it. Without delay, the nursemaid fetched the jade pendant and presented it to the Empress Dowager. She covered her mouth, tears spilling silently as she said, this jade pendant is the one I gave to Zheng. It belonged to the former emperor. Overcome by emotion, she fainted. Empress Dowager, grandmother. The nursemaid and Su Yingxue supported the Empress Dowager together. Su Yingxue instructed the nursemaid, remove her shoes and socks, and make her comfortable. Seeing the assurance in Su Yingxue's demeanor, the nursemaid expressed surprise. Do you possess medical knowledge? Su Yingxue nodded, and the nursemaid immediately complied. Su Yingxue applied 2 needles to the Empress Dowager's feet, let a bit of blood, and after regulating her breathing, she slowly regained consciousness. Qin Ruli and Qin Muyan hurried over. Imperial grandmother, please don't be agitated, you must take care of yourself. With red-rimmed eyes, the Empress Dowager grasped Qin Ruli's hand. Yang was but a child then, but you, Ruli, must remember, this jade pendant, it was given to me by the former emperor, and from me to Zheng Er. Who's real and who's fake? Qin Ruli took the jade pendant and looked at it carefully, nodding. Yes, this blue scale jade, it is said to be formed many years ago from the fusion of a merfolk's scales and tears, hence it glows with a phosphorescent blue light. There is only this one in the world, no one can imitate it. This jade pendant must indeed be genuine. Qin Muyan took the jade pendant and looked at it. Although he had not seen it before, he had heard of it. It was a gift from his imperial grandfather to the imperial grandmother, who then put it on his little aunt when she was born. Such a precious object, his little aunt certainly would not be parted from it. Even if she were to disappear, she would be wearing it. Unless it was lost. Qin Muyan's knife rested on Mu Fei's neck. Speak, where did you get this? And where is the other half of the jade pendant? The other half of the jade pendant is here. Shun Yu took out the other half of the jade pendant from her bosom as if it were a treasured possession. Though it was just given to her by Mu Fei, she treated it as a priceless treasure. As Qujin Muyan reached out to take it, she protected it as if it were her own life. This is the only thing my mother left me. Your Highness, if you wish to take it away, then take my life along with it. Enough nonsense. Hand it over to your Highness to see. The others might have felt pity for her, but Qujin Muyan did not. He made a move to snatch it away. Wait. The Empress Dowager's mind cleared somewhat, and her attitude toward Shun Yu softened a bit. Bring that jade pendant to me and let the Emperor and I take a look. If it really matches, then your identity is still, yet to be determined. Her heart ached faintly as she spoke. From the first moment she saw Su Yingxue, she was convinced she was her own granddaughter. But she could not disbelieve the evidence. At this time, Su Yingxue could not say much more. She stood beside Chu Yihan, and he clasped her fingers tightly, giving her confidence. No one can replace you. Su Yingxue smiled faintly. Yes, my husband. Her calm and serene smile, when caught in Qin Muyan's eyes, made his gaze even more fervent and obsessed. Su Yingxue was so captivating. No matter if she was his cousin or not. Shun Yu knelt and crawled towards the Empress Dowager, personally handing over the jade pendant with a careful reverence in her eyes. I've had this jade pendant on me since I was young, and I think it must be something my mother left me, so I've never dared to part with it. She began to cry. Such filial piety was hard not to move people. The Empress Dowager put the 2 halves of the jade pendant together and found that it was indeed a whole piece, and it was the one she gave to Zheng Er. What is Mu Fei's intention? Why not ask Mu Fei where he got the blue-scaled jade which is supposedly my mother's personal belonging? Su Yingxue's eyes were sharp as she turned to look at Mu Fei. This person was unfathomable. The Empress Dowager and Qin Muyan also stared intently at Mu Fei. Their gazes carried a powerful pressure. If it had been any ordinary person, they would have been scared into having a heart attack by now. Yet Mu Fei remained calm and unhurried as he said, "This jade pendant was something I found at a ghost market. I am also a citizen of the Great Wei dynasty and had heard of this item. Hence, I sought it out and eventually discovered the whereabouts of Princess Zhao Hua. If Princess Zhao Hua is not the daughter of the eldest princess, then why was the other half of this jade pendant not found with someone else, but with her instead? The ninth princess consort claims to be the daughter of the eldest princess, but what evidence does she have to prove it? After all, apart from a face that resembles the eldest princess, she has nothing else. And I have heard that those with exceptional medical skills can change a person's face. As soon as Mu Fei spoke, the hall erupted into commotion. Changing faces? Qin Ruli's eyes deepened. You mean to say, turning an entirely different face into an exact replica? Is such miraculous craftsmanship possible? Of course it is. Su Yingxue of the Great Cheng dynasty is renowned for her extraordinary medical skills. Surely, the emperor has heard of her, hasn't he? Mu Fei's eyes had a flirtatious lift, the corners harboring a sharp glint. Qin Ruli nodded. Indeed, I have heard a little about her reputation recently. Seeing Su Yingxue close to Chu Yihan, a seed of doubt took root in his heart. Imperial brother, Yingxue's face has never changed. When I met her, she was already as she appears now. Besides, she is benevolent and skillful in medicine, using her talents solely to save lives. Changing her appearance is something she would disdain to do. Qin Muyan couldn't wait to defend Su Yingxue. He knew that once his imperial brother began to doubt Su Yingxue, the motivations behind her and Chu Yihan's visit to the Great Wei dynasty would come under suspicion. He would not stand by and let such a thing happen. The ninth princess consort is famed for her incomparable beauty, an object of desire for the whole world, but blood relations and affection cannot be replaced by beauty. Shenyu covered her chest, sobbing and gasping for air. Her speech was feeble and pitiful, yet it subtly reminded everyone that Su Yingxue's beauty was her best weapon. She also implied that Qin Muyan was blinded by Su Yingxue's allure. Liking can't be compared with love. Shenyu felt as if she had been struck by lightning, rendered completely immobile. Panicked, she looked toward Mu Fei, her eyes pleading for an answer. What should they do? Su Yingxue still had this kind of ability. Did they want them to die? A sly smile curled on Mu Fei's lips, his expression unreadable. Shenyu was on the verge of desperation, wishing she could grab his collar and demand, "Do you have any other tricks up your sleeve? If not, wasn't she as good as dead?" After all, she couldn't escape from the Great Wei Imperial Palace by herself. But Mu Fei actually said, since the ninth princess consort has such confidence, perhaps it's worthwhile to have a thorough examination. What? Shenyu's face turned deathly pale, her arms trembling uncontrollably behind her back. She had misplaced her trust in Mu Fei. This madman was going to get her killed. Bring the tools for Yingxue. Qin Ruli seemed to believe Su Yingxue as well, so he ordered preparations for her. Su Yingxue went to the inner hall, and from Medicine King Valley, she took a silver needle and glass slide, planning to try the blood verification method she had used on Su Yuro last time. As long as it was proved that Shun Yu had no blood relation with the Empress Dowager, that would be enough. But as she was preparing the items, a beautiful woman appeared in the hall. Dressed in opulent and dignified attire, she walked in and sat down next to the Empress Dowager. Qin Ruli and Qin Muyan also treated her with great respect. When Qin Muyan saw her, he quickly introduced her. Yingxue, this is my mother, the eldest princess. My mother passed away early, and she raised me. Oh. Su Yingxue nodded, so it's the eldest princess. She was her aunt. I've heard that the Scarlet Flame King is very filial, and always takes care of things personally. You should return to the eldest princess side. The princess will be protected by your highness. Chu Yihan wrapped an arm around Su Yingxue's waist, gently lifted the stray hairs from her cheek, and tucked them behind her ear, showing tender affection. This scene truly stung Qin Muyan's eyes. His face turned a hue of dark green as he returned to Qin Je's side. Qin Ji, having heard of the events occurring within the palace, had rushed over. The question of Su Yingxue and Shun Yu's identities was of paramount importance, but she noticed that Qin Muyan held extraordinary care for Su Yingxue. He even didn't hesitate to face embarrassment in front of Chu Yihan for her sake. At the moment, Qin Muyan's expression was extremely unhappy. All because of Su Yingxue. Qin Ji, grabbing Qin Muyan's hand, inquired with a sniff, Muyan, Are you very familiar with that Su Yingxue? She has saved my life on numerous occasions. She is a very good woman. To Qin Muyan, no amount of flowery language could capture Su Yingxue, so he simply used the word good. Qin Ji naturally picked up on his underlying meaning regardless of Su Yingxue's identity. The fact that she had become Chu Yihan's wife and yet continued to capture Qin Muyan's heart couldn't sit well with her. That alone prevented her from taking a liking to Su Yingxue. She selectively ignored Su Yingxue's greeting to her. Leaning against Chu Yihan, Su Yingxue quietly said, "It seems my aunt doesn't like me very much. Do you lack her affection?" Chu Yihan's voice was cool. Su Yingxue tilted her head, "I guess not. Having hubby's affection is enough for me. For you, I have love. Love that penetrates deep into the marrow. Affection does not even merit comparison with deep love." A blush crept silently up Su Yingxue's earlobes. Originally thinking she could tease Chu Yihan, who knew this normally cold and abstinent man's casual remark would make her heart race and face flush. The princess is actually Shen Yu. Su Yingxue secretly pinched herself, thinking that she was really letting herself down. If her mother's spirit in heaven saw this, she would definitely laugh at her. "All right, everything is ready. To demonstrate fairness and impartiality, I, the princess, will collect blood from both of you. This method, taught to the court physician by the 9th princess consort, will be used by the court physician to verify the results. Is this acceptable?" Qin Jie's scrutinizing gaze turned towards Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue nodded frankly, "It's acceptable, no problem." Therefore, when Qin Ji came to draw her blood, she cooperated by reaching out her hand. Qin Ji placed her blood on a microscope slide. Then she turned to draw Shen Yu's blood. After collecting both blood samples, she proceeded towards the court physician. However, as she passed by Mu Fei, she suddenly heard a whisper, "Swap the two people's blood." "Who?" Qin Ji was somewhat dazed. She suddenly became oblivious to her surroundings. "Swap the two people's blood." The voice rang out again, and Qin Ji lost consciousness, her hand under her sleeve moved. The wet nurse took the blood of the Empress Dowager, along with the 2 drops of blood Qin Ji had, and gave them all to the court physician. The court physician verified the blood using the method taught by Su Yingxue. At first, they were all intrigued by this novel method of blood testing they had never heard of before, and being able to carry out the experiment themselves was of great significance. After a quarter of an hour of standing still, the results came out. The court physician excitedly announced, "This drop of blood melds with the Empress Dowager's blood. She must indubitably be the Empress Dowager's biological granddaughter. Quick, show it to me." The Empress Dowager couldn't wait to know the result. The wet nurse promptly helped her up. With Qin Ruli's permission, the court physician first brought the items to the side of the Empress Dowager. Seeing 1 drop of blood merge with her own, the Empress Dowager was tearfully moved, but the expression on her face stiffened when she saw the name labeled on the microscope slide. Qin Ji sensed something was amiss and immediately went to check the results by the Empress Dowager's side. Her lips tightly pursed, she said nothing. Qin Muyan called out loudly, "Bring it here so your highness and imperial brother can take a look." The court physician then knelt by Qin Ruli and Qin Muyan with the tray in hand. The expressions on both their faces were equally complex. Especially when Qin Muyan looked at Su Yingxue, his gaze carried a sense of regret. "How could this be? It should have been Yingxue," Qin Muyan murmured softly, unable to believe it. Su Yingxue suddenly sensed something. That result seems to have a problem. Chu Yihan also felt it. But he didn't speak rashly. Everyone had seen the result, everyone except Su Yingxue and Shen Yu. Shen Yu was still on tenterhooks, until the Empress Dowager stood up, walked over to her, and extended a hand, saying warmly, "Child, I have wronged you. You are indeed the one connected to me by blood." Shen Yu's heart almost couldn't contain its excitement, but she quickly controlled her emotions, merely covering her face and weeping bitterly, putting on a heartbroken appearance. "Imperial grandmother, Jiao knows, the truth will eventually be clear to the world. Suing Shue, she couldn't snatch away everything that belonged to her. The identity of a great Wei dynasty princess was hers. Suing Shue bit her lip. How could this be? Could there have been foul play? Her sharp gaze immediately shot towards Qin Ji and the court physician. One collected the blood, and the other verified it. Who would deliberately tamper with the results? Chu Yihan's brows furrowed tightly, his oppressive gaze landed on Qin Ji. Qin Ji stood up at once. What? Are your highness the 9th prince and his wife doubting me, the princess? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.